Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to day 2 of ProBots. All you beautiful bots and botettes out there, it is time to be at the best place on the internet to watch AIs go hand in hand or circuit to circuit against each other. This is the spot. So hopefully you've got your chance, get your water, get your food, because we're going to get these games started. I got to bring everybody in here. Let's have the casters. Booyakasha, everybody. Oh my god, it's a wild BY.
Hello, hello.
Yo. He's still labeled as Ketroc.
Yeah, don't worry about that. I like Ravens too, you know, if I ever played Terran.
The other caster, Ketroc. Welcome, Ketroc. I mean, BY. And then Endersword, of course.
Yo.
Yeah, he's always here, though. You focus on me, don't worry.
I got the bunnies here now, too. They're just in frame.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just barely in the corner.
See them? They're barely there, but they're there. Yeah. Chilling.
Thank God we get labeled on the left side and not the right side.
I got my gamer water.
Your gamer.
Basically.
I always, you know what? The fact that your rabbits are always just free roaming is such an exciting, like, I don't know if I'm more surprised or that they just like, they're every time that I see your rabbits that they're still alive.
Well, these ones aren't that old. That one I had was like 15 years old by the time he died, which is crazy for a rabbit.
I mean, it is crazy.
These guys are only like 1.5 now.
You are like the best rabbit carer I've ever met, because
top
your
5
rabbits,
at least. Top 5.
Top 5. They just roam free. I don't know, free range
I
roam.
think it's
rabbits.
Basically like me and Emiru. That's it. I think we're the only streamers with rabbits.
Yeah.
I guess Maya probably has some, but a wolf probably eats them or something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. All right, so yes, we're not talking about rabbits being eaten today. We're talking about the bots ready to play. All right, everybody.
We're talking about robots, not rabbits.
Not rabbits, robots. You know what? Let's talk about squares. Why don't we see the format?
Rectangles.
Rectangles.
So the rectangle. See, a square would be skinny. Square has to be equal.
Hip to be square. Hip.
So it does still have 4 right angles, just like a square does, but the height and width do not have to match the rectangle. But on the left side of the rectangle, we have the group stage, which is what we are currently in. So there are 4 groups of 4. That is basically double elimination to get out of the group. You have to win 2 to make your way through. And if you lose 2, you're knocked out. So 2 will advance from each group into the second rectangle on the right, which is the playoff single elimination stage, where we will have a quarterfinals, which is a best of 3, semis, best of 5, and a finals with a best of 7.
Fantastic. Well, since you've been away for God knows how long, what are you pretty much ready to see happen from these new bots?
Let's see. Like general, or do you want me to like actually talk about matchups that I'm looking forward to?
No, give me general. We'll start general.
Okay.
We'll start out general, and then we'll slowly creep on in.
General, I'm pretty into the chaotic early game shenanigans of like one probe getting chased a little too long, changing or like, they went in slightly too early with the zealots, and then like the stream never quite works. But I love those kind of like edges, like it's make or break for the first like 5 minutes, and then it's kind of the game's either over or like basically over. We just have to watch it dissolve. But I love the early game shenanigans that happen with bots, and then I feel like honestly both extremes. And then I really like the super late game, BenBot, Ketroc, BC carrier, just like craziness. The I forget what Zerg did it last time, but some Zerg was doing like neural parasites and like biling their own neural, like just doing really like cool unit control. Just has such there's so much room to be impressed, because I feel like the expectations kind of low for like a lot of different units all working together. Like if you're not going to do like a ball of BC,
that was Eris and
yeah, it's like being able to see like things actually all work almost like a pro player. That's also really exciting. So I want fast matches and I want really long matches. Medium,
Well, good news. There's a Ketroc in here, so I feel like there is a guarantee. You know what? Why don't we take a look at what brackets we have? Let's see. Group B. This is Group C.
We're in C and D. Yeah.
C and D, absolutely. Group C and D. So there's a
This
Ketroc
one-
in here.
Yeah, this one for some reason we've already determined
Yeah, this is not
eliminations,
spoilers, hopefully.
but I don't think this is right. But it's we're gonna have Caninana versus Tartarus, the weird illiterate or whatever sounding names with the double syllables. Caninana,
Tartarus,
it's
though, right?
literally teeth. Yeah, I know it doesn't really translate to it, but it seems like teeth versus tartar. So basically, can Caninana stand up with its strong enamel and fight off gingivitis? That will be a stunning match. So I'm not sure what we haven't seen Tartarus yet, so not sure what to expect out of him. Then we're going to Ketroc versus Zozo. Zozo has traditionally been a rush bot. We'll see if that's still the case. Whether it is worker rushes or zealot rushes, that seems to be what we get out of Zozo.
Doesn't Zozo transfer, or am I thinking that's 12 poo bot that rushes and then switches to roaches? That's 12 poo bot.
Yeah, 12.
No,
Yeah,
Zozo
Zozo's
also-
a Protoss. Yeah.
I think has put in a cannon or two, right? Didn't they start doing some cannon-y stuff in a PvP?
Maybe.
I
Yeah.
feel
It
like
may have-
Zozo has a
maybe.
secret, like they have a
Yeah.
secret macro game behind them. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It may have been a different Protoss bot, but it was either them or the random
Yeah.
bot.
It
But-
was Xena was the random bot that that I think started out
yeah.
all cheesing, but now
Yeah.
does
Has
do
evolved.
macro. Yeah.
To its second form.
Yeah.
And then DominionDog and T-Bone. DominionDog has returned. I want to say DominionDog has been away for quite some time,
Yes.
actually. They've been off the ladder, DominionDog and Underdog being the team co-creators of it. They disappeared, just fell off the scene. So this, and I think Endershore brought it up before, is that DominionDog is a pretty, it's like a second, in finals, semifinals, like it sits up there when it was around, and it's, we just don't know where it stands in the new crop of bots with Eris out of the way and now Deimos as his spiritual successor. I don't know. We'll see.
I feel like just off the names, Dog versus T-Bone, I've got to give it pretty hard to Dog.
Mm.
I haven't seen them yet, but that just
Yeah.
seems like a rough matchup for T-Bone.
Exactly.
You don't want to be that.
They got a weird thing
On that side.
Yeah. Again, teeth and bones and stuff coming into play. We got some weird matchups.
Gingivitis.
Yeah.
BenBotBC versus TyrT.
I was saying, then the last one, which I think could turn into just like straight up BC versus Raven, which is still fun, but not exactly what I want. But if that is a Terran that goes late and gets into like Thor, tank,
Yeah.
Marine clumps trying to jump on Vipe, like that, I think could be really fun.
Yeah, Tyr definitely has had a history of Thor as a thing. I don't know in the TVT though, but you saw a lot of that in things like TVZ, going
Mhm.
into Thor and Ghosts. So we'll see for this one.
And before I let you guys kind of go into the depths of each one, I want you to actually talk to you about the meta and how, like, as from ProBots, we've changed metas quite a bit. And Endershore, you have been the long-lasting meta, the chronicles of ProBots. Like, where do you think our meta is right now in terms of, like, we had the age of the Tempests,
Yeah.
and then we kind of moved. Like, where would you see us right now in terms of meta?
I feel like we're starting to swing back to attacks being more the meta. So I find we always tend to go like someone will figure out new crisper attacks, and then people eventually defend against it and go later and later. And I think we hit a peak late when like Eris was dominating because there was just no way to get attacks through Eris at all. It was going late game pretty much always, and a lot of people were drifting later. I think now some of the new bots we're seeing come up, and some of them that I think we're seeing massively improve, like Xena being one of them, things like that, are looking for types of timing attacks, and we're starting to get more like at least attempts to use things like drops, to use things like oracles, to use things like that, which have more potential as like a, I'm going to hit a 2-base timing, I'm going to hit a 3-base timing sort of thing. And then that tends to be held and we go back the other way.
Yeah.
But like if you look at it last season, we basically went to like what dominated again, like zealot rushes. So you get this reset to like people figure out a crisper way to launch these things. So things like speed mining and stuff like that will suddenly open the door for a crisper attack, and then people have to figure out how to defend that, and it gets longer again. So I think we're in that middle stage right now where it's still shorter than normal, but it'll probably go longer again in a little bit.
One thing I wanted to point out too as well, we have a bot from last week that actually has decided not to use speed mining.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be a fascinating if we start seeing more bot authors putting more limitations on them. And I believe Sharkbot actually also uses the camera as well.
Yeah.
If he says so. If we start seeing, like, you know, I don't know. I think if he was for drops, he actually uses the camera, is what he had said. And what I wanted to bring up meta is BY. I wanted to ask you, how do you think the new patch stuff will affect our meta? From your thoughts,
are you guys actually gonna be able to play on the patch? I always thought
not right away. It'll take some time. Like it's not,
but
immediate.
eventually it will.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to hear your wish list of like freaky deaky.
Well, honestly, so I was gonna say not where I think the meta is, but where I kind of want the bot meta to kind of get to. My answer was gonna be kind of spellcasters, kind of like what I was saying before. With like when it goes long, that's where it seems like there's the most potential and the least amount of like, this is how you're supposed to do it. Like it's not like a, kind of a unbeaten path. And so at least for Protoss, the energy overcharge, if the spellcasters kind of get more of a, highlight, like Sentry, Storm, that kind of stuff with like Protoss, I think could be really cool. Trying to use, like Hallucinated Phoenix to try to get earlier information, or even like a sort of like Soul Train type, like Sentry Force Field cheese that you could have like a Warp Prism 4 sentries with like a gajillion energy that you've been, just feeding. I'm
thinking like energy overcharge, like hallucs everywhere, just hallucination army built of overcharge.
Yeah, like build some Archons. If they don't have vision, it's like 700 energy, like shields worth of like just tanking. I mean, there's a lot of like Colossus to see high ground and stay with their army. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. As a Protoss, I've mostly just looked at the Protoss changes. So like, I know there are some, like the Hydra has like the little like spurt of movement, and so maybe you see some cooler, like Marine micro, but with Hydras, with individual.
We might see some abusing
first move.
That. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things that could become very cool. But yeah, I'm just excited to see it. I also wanted to say real quick that how Ender sort of explain kind of the meta reminds me so much of how like PvZ kind of build orders go, where like Zest will make like the newest, perfect adept play. It'll dominate Zergs, and then like Zerg defense will just get like way better, and then like Protosses will suffer until someone gets like one new build order that's like, now this hits way harder. Then the Zergs kind of suffer. They have to learn it. So it sounds like a similar kind of a ecosystem of like, you play defensive, when you know what's going on, and then you have to kind of hit them with a new.
And the bot meta, that's how the bot meta actually does evolve very similarly. Like,
it does. It does in a way. And then it's one thing that's true about bot meta that's not true in human meta is a human can at least improvise a defense. The bot cannot improvise a defense.
If it's a truly novel attack, you will just win pretty much.
Cannot, and it's also really bad. We're still bad at things like placement and space. So things like, okay, there's a zealot rush coming, I need 3 spines, is not good enough. It needs to know where to put the 3 spines. It needs to understand that the unit should be near them. It needs to know where choke points are, things like that. And so far, we haven't had a lot of that. So a lot of like human evolution towards like stopping a rush is figuring out like optimal placement, timing, squeezing out a little thing to still make the defense, but cheat on the economic side. For a bot, that's a lot harder because it struggles with, it can have all the material needed to defend, but the attack hits crisper than the defense does. The defense is usually a little, it doesn't quite know what it's doing because it's not programmed specifically.
Well, and some concepts are a little bit more abstract, like SimCity and like what you want, depending on what's coming. Really, like if it's a Baneling bust compared to Lings, like you don't want to have the same kind of wall, so that stuff gets really weird. a nice kind of segue into Caninana versus Tartarus. Caninana, actually, one of the updates that they have is defensive structures can move to places needing them. And so kind of what you were saying, where like you build 3 spines, but they're in the wrong spot, and they, the lings aren't attacking where they are at. They can be like completely useless. And Tartarus is a ling rusher. Caninana does have a new, defensive structure built in. So
yeah, defensive structure move. Yeah. So what we're gonna see, is a spine unroot itself at a terrible time.
Yeah, I just say if there's no wall, it's pretty rough anyway.
That's what we're gonna see.
But it was cool for you to mention it and be like, oh, they kind of are taking that into account a little bit.
Yeah.
So before we get into that, and speaking of taking account, if you're there right now, you know what you got to do. You got to hit that like button. You got to hit that subscribe. If you haven't done that already, hit those 2 things because it helps with them algorithm magic. And also want to shout out to AI Arena, where all these bots are being played before they come up here. Like, I mean, if you want to see more than the ProBots, we got 16 here, but AI Arena has, I think someone said 70 or 80 just got submitted last season. Don't quote me on that, but there are more new bots coming all the time. So that's really exciting. Laughing Games casts it on his channel. So if you want to get a lot more of the extra bots you won't see here, you can go check him out as well. And then, of course, versus AI.net. That's our new website. I actually just put up a blog post to get you started. So if you want to get started on a bot right away, actually I'm pretty proud of it. Got all the, you can just copy and paste all the command line stuff, so you can get started within less than 15 minutes. So go do all those good things. And visit all the links. And an exclamation mark, join in the chat. Other than that, gentlemen, I'm going to send you guys away to give us our first game. Anything else before I leave? No trolls.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm excited to get into it.
All right.
As long as I'm not allowed to troll, I'm just excited.
Right.
That's it.
Then. All right. Production, take it away. Give it to the caster.
Bye, Draken.
Bye. Yo. Yep. So, we kind of already discussed this match a little bit. They started the timer at like 5 minutes, but let's hop into hop into the stats on these 2 if we can. And we've got a ZVZ coming up. Caninana here has had 6 appearances in the tournament and is coded in Rust. And has taken advantage of a couple of the map vetoes. Caninana's kind of one that the author's been around, been on the post-bot show a few times. Bot with reactive playstyle. Tries to survive the early game, so I guess that may come up here, and then play with mid to late spellcasters.
A bot after my heart, truly.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a difference too in like types of spellcasters and how difficult they are. So like you mentioned, one of them that's probably the hardest, which is like the sentry. Placing force fields is one of the hardest things to do at all. But something like the neural, because there's a specific target, that's easier to deal with. Stuff like fungals, I think it can do by just targeting mid-pack. But stuff like storms, where once it hits, the other bot actually doesn't know that the storm is still happening, sort of thing. Like because there's a time component, it makes it harder.
And it's not like when you're building something and you have like the hexes, it'll lock your mouse into certain zones. You can't like place it in a certain way. You can storm and bile whatever you want. And you could try to be, if you do it in a blind spot, they could be trying to get to that spot for, 20 seconds trying to do that spell. And it can get really ugly.
Yeah. This one does have features like map analysis, combat sims, and army splitting. Caninana doesn't do a pretty good job of splitting up and controlling different parts of the army, which is good. But I find, despite like a lot of effort, I think, going into things like map awareness and understanding points, that it's still just observably one of the things that the bots still struggle with the most is understanding where it is and how the terrain plays into the strategy of the game. That still is a very hard thing for it to manage. So Tartarus, originally a Zergling rush bot, although in some cases it does a Mutalisk rush. It trains as much of the chosen unit as possible and just attacks the enemy base. That seems fair.
It sounds like a bronze to GM. Like, all right, first step, just build units and just attack. Like, choose one. It could be a Zergling, it could be a Muta, but like, don't overcomplicate it. You know?
Yeah. Wall offs are a nightmare. Probably shouldn't be too big of concern with the Zerg, but again, if static defense is part of Caninana, then could play a role. But hey, maybe he'll go straight into the Mutalisk, and we'll see that. Tartarus has an adaptive Zergling wave size. That's actually pretty good. This is one thing that we see happen a lot in like some of these rush bots of like, they tend to either operate one of two ways. That once they go, everything just goes and they never regroup, right?
The rally point is across the map.
It's just go. Yeah. And then the other one is it goes at a set number. But having that be more adaptive seems good because it'll do like, I'll build up to 30 and then go again. But then sometimes that's not appropriate. Or you need escalating size waves to do more damage. Because if your 30 died, then your 30 again is probably going to die. So I think this is now the shortest bot. We have one that's 485 lines of code. This was 286 lines of code.
Kind of blew it out of the water, yeah.
So let's see what happens here. Going to be playing on Equilibrium to start, so that one both bases in the north, and then Gresvin and Hard led.
Okay, not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, I feel like Caninana definitely has mentioned a couple times that the early game is kind of where they struggle and cheese, so we'll just have to see exactly how well they hold it. It does seem like, you know, once they get past the early game, they should have a much better grasp on how to use a lot of the units that Zerg has. But yeah, that early game is going to be very scary. I did what you were saying, just reminded me of a good example of that. Like, I don't know if theirs was exactly adaptive, but holding the unit so you don't just like slowly single lining them in is, I think it was Zozo with their zealots when they're trying to break like a Terran wall where like in other games, you know, you see one zealot go at a time and lose to 2 Marines and then one zealot to 2 Marines. But when you see them clumped up 6 zealots wide, and then you can kind of actually take down some depots and actually do some damage. Yeah, we'll have to see how well Tartarus can do their Lings or do their Mutas. It's one of the two.
Yeah. So I think we are ready. Let's hop into it and find out which ones it's going to be. I bet Lings first. Let's find out. Tartarus in a stunned silence. There we go.
Do you think their cat's name is Tartarus?
Sounds right.
Almost got to be right.
Yeah.
Tartarus. All right, we got the pull down. We got a gas coming. So
Caninana.
So both pools relatively early. Caninana building it before gas too. Of course, these two may have faced each other on the AI arena ladder and so on. So often you do program in a defense for your specific opponent. But yeah, both of them getting that. But Tartarus is getting the gas as well. So we're going to have Speedling.
Yeah, and Tartarus getting 2 gases, so maybe this is straight to layer.
Yeah,
and it's instantly
one, then, yeah.
6 gas seems like a weird amount of gas for Lings.
Yeah.
So we'll be like probably some of the fastest mutas you can get. Are they gonna stay on one base?
Yeah, that's tough. I guess. Yeah.
You get a queen, you get some injects, but
yeah, that's
it's gonna
definitely
be like
a muta rush.
5
mutas.
mutas.
Yeah. You need that. I've always tended to think of it like your first burst of mutas needs to be 8 of them or more.
Yeah, or something
like
substantial-ish. Yeah. Because once you lose that surprise hit and they start building spores and more queens, it gets pretty brutal.
I've always, like, way back to the origin of the game, I've always kind of said, if people need to find out that you built mutas when they hit their base. Like,
Yeah.
if someone finds out that you have switched to muta while they're on your side of the map, you've lost, probably.
Yeah. The wind has so
Yeah.
much wind has been taken out of those sails that
Yeah.
like mutas are annoying because you don't know when they're coming, and then they can just like be everywhere.
Yeah,
and they
it's
can just
supposed
like
to be a big
harassing.
shock shift, and then it needs to start with you having a little momentum, and then their mobility and everything needs to keep someone on their back heels long
Yeah.
enough. Like that's the whole point of it is. But if that first push does not knock them off balance, then they're just not like there's nowhere to go.
You
basically.
almost need to force them to build defense too late.
Yeah,
And then you're like in a
Exactly.
perfect, then you just go back to the front. They got 7 spores and you're feeling good. But all right, technically the spire has been scouted.
Yeah.
But what kind of, I mean, you kind of mentioned it before. People can kind of improvise their responses. Bots usually don't have much of a luxury like that. So I don't know what the correct response is going to be from Caninana.
So the proxy hatch is interesting in this.
Oh, yeah. I kind of hate
Yeah.
that for
Yeah, I don't.
mutas.
Yeah, it seems almost. Yeah, particularly too where this one has kind of like airspace on the top. Like that's kind of weird. I wouldn't want them to come from 2 different angles like that.
Yeah, because you have to go through the natural
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
south one and then through the yeah. It doesn't make much sense. And this if it is scouted, which it was, it seems undefendable if you're going
Yeah.
straight into mutas with no lings or queens or anything.
Indeed, we'll see. So 3 of them are coming out, but yeah, as meant, he could actually build more here. He could get 6 out at once, but I think it's just plain lacking the larva. Was there no queen built on this?
No queen's been built, and they
Yeah.
are supply blocked.
Yeah.
So
that's a problem. Because that would be if you got 5 or 6, then that's something. But yeah, without skipping the queen here, I think is a bit much. And it's not like he's super. I think he would have been earlier, but right now you're not super mineral tight, where that's your holdup.
yeah, exactly. That's not the limiting factor of
Yeah.
your like build order right now. Yeah, I think no queen and even the natural being a proxy hatch that is not going to actually be able to group up with the mutas like well. I think you either have to take your natural at home or a queen.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, probably both is the better answer, but
Yeah, we do see spores already coming down on Caninana's side.
I think a healthy
Um,
amount of queens too.
Yeah. And yeah. Still making roaches though. Now that can be, even though it's like they can't do anything against the mutas, very often you'll see mutas lose to simply roaches come across. And again, if you have to use your
Yeah.
mutas defensively, that's just giving them time to go to something else. So, and they don't kill them fast.
Yeah, well,
Especially
and
a small number. Yeah.
with the burrow being a thing, it's gonna be hell for the mutas to ever clean up the roaches. Mutas kind of have like I feel like they're known for like if you're really getting screwed over by mutas, just go base trade because mutas do not want to fight buildings and like they don't want to come fight actual armies. They want to kill workers, and so I think sending over this amount of roaches should be plenty of pressure that Caninana either won't be attacked this entire time or Tartarus will take way more damage than Caninana does.
Yeah, they're going to pass here. The muta's going to the 3rd base of Caninana first here. So kind of just going after the first thing they see, but, that's not exactly the highest value target.
Yeah.
The burrow here is nice to keep everything alive. The spore is in kind of a weird place on the south there, and the queens don't want to engage into it, but we're going to have the roaches push into the main here of Tartarus pretty soon. And there's a couple mutas helping. Or that will be there to defend, but that's going to be a lot of roach mass to get through.
2 mutas tickling them I don't think are going to do much. So, I mean, this is just going to take out... Oh, well, Caninana still won't push in. Okay, now they finally are.
He's committed, yeah. And now he's into the spore range on the other side, too. And it's not like an overwhelming number of mutas, so it looks like he's just sitting there fighting the spore. But these ones are now going after the economy, and there's no real response there.
Yeah, I think Tartarus even took the 2 mutas that were, they weren't going to do much anyway, but I think they
took
went
him
across
over
the
that.
map as well.
Yeah. And you can see kind of on the other side of the map, Caninana's mutas seem like really spread out. Actually, it seems like they're dead.
Yeah, it seems like all the blue buildings are twinkling and
Yeah. Yeah, I see a couple strays there. I think he ended up with those 6 first mutas against the Spore, and that's just not enough. There's a point that you can swarm that sort of thing and take it out, but 6 is not, like, you're going to lose some.
Yeah.
And then you got to fight the queens. That's not going to be good
so I think
enough.
there are 3 queens there as well, and it's a number where you avoid. you run around and you just avoid stuff.
Indeed, and clearing up that proxy base, and the rest of the roaches are coming over, and we get our last 2 buildings here. I think the observer died, but there we go. Caninana.
Easy
We
enough.
ended up looking at the last place where
it was perfectly placed.
needed the action anyway, so it was it's all good. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, Muta's kind of this is the thing that's like you've definitely got to optimize of like if you're doing a rush into something like that, particularly with like a 1 base. I guess it was 2 with the proxy, but that didn't make a lot of sense.
Almost not. Yeah.
So if you're gonna do that, like with short lines of code, then you almost want then that's got to be as crisp as you can make it, and that wasn't crisp.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have the larva, he was supply blocked, and then the lack of the queen, which maybe the queen helped you earlier in that build, but you got to look at where you get to. And if you're getting to a point that you're supply blocked out of larva with 500 minerals, then you could have built a queen.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And I think it's the problem of you're going too fast, where, like you said, like mutas are it's just almost like rushing into Hydra, where like 7 Hydra is garbage. Like that loses to like 7 Stalker almost. It's like you need a ball of these kind of units, and so you can't rush it so fast that when you get the rush out, it's not actually threatening, and you can't fight 1 Spore Crawler and 2 Queen. So I hope to see the Lings a little bit harder, a little less gas, a little more, hatches if possible. But we'll see.
Something like that would definitely be good. Not sure if we're ready here yet. If we are, let's jump into game number 2. It says soon, but usually when I do that, they put a timer up. Let's see what happens.
Caninana. Tartarus.
All right, Tartarus, stay on 1 gas, please. Because also the proxy hatch, I hate a lot less if you're going Lings.
Yeah.
It makes infinitely more sense to me if Lings is the game plan. Oh, it's another gas and 3 gas saturation.
Yeah.
So it's almost assuredly going to be mutas, because just about nothing else makes sense. Unless we're getting like an ultra rush, maybe some infestors.
Yeah, I want to see that. I want to see the late game 1 base surge.
Triple Evo, get some upgrades going, just really hardcore.
Yeah. See if Caninana then chooses a different path or anything here. Because again, he scouted the Spire really quickly and just was like, yep, Roach.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the intended response, like to a scout, or whether it was just that's the plan anyway, and the spores were the only response.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like as long as Caninana gets spores, they're going to be safe, just because like this muta hit just does not hit hard enough.
Yeah.
And so if Caninana knows it's coming at all, I think they're going to be okay. And I feel like they're probably going to start the same way with at least a few Lings out. And Tartarus just straight up skips Lings with this rush, which is another part of like going so fast that you have nothing to show for like the beginning of the game. Like you're losing what it means to rush, like it's not a strong rush just because you can do it fast,
Exactly. Especially again, and like we pointed out last time, getting stuck on the larva. He's sitting there with extra minerals right now with 3 larvae pooling and no queen, so nothing if you don't spend those larvae, they're just wasted.
Yeah.
So you could be using them even if you were doing it for overlords.
Yeah, just
you
do
gotta
3
be
overlords
using
now,
it.
so you don't get
Yeah, you
screwed
get
over
stuck
later.
Yeah.
Maybe another worker or two. You know, like putting 6 gas on, like you're not getting much minerals. So like you could have another hatch. Like the things could line up a lot better. Yeah.
So Ling is coming across now. It looks like a
There's that
drone is
proxy
going
hatch.
out. Yeah.
It's so goofy.
This one's a little. If you did it at the top, it's not as bad on this map, but that didn't look like where he's going.
Yeah, well, and like the timing just doesn't make sense too,
Yeah,
though.
it
Like
just
the
yeah.
spire's gonna finish by the time like the hatch goes down, or like it's
Yeah.
like a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, it doesn't line up.
So
'Cause,
just-
if the intent was to like that's where I get my extra larva from, it still doesn't totally make sense, but it's whatever. And now it's way down there. I don't know what the point of that is. Immediately spotted too, which
Yeah,
which is weird.
which that one's a much worse one to get immediately
Yeah.
spotted. The last one,
Yeah.
it was like you could have accidentally spotted if your
Yeah.
overlord was in a weird spot. This one seemed like it almost could have been more of like a ninja base, but
Yeah.
still gets immediately spotted. If this Ling could just tickle some drones, I mean, it's already
Yeah.
doing God's work. You know, it's
Yeah.
got all the information in the world. But last time it was the same thing where like this Ling is in this base and there's no defense until the first 3 mutas come out, because the Queen and Lings are skipped completely.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So here we are, same setup again of like 500 something minerals, all the larvae are used. And then, and it just you could get more, that's all. Like
Your proxy
Yeah.
hatch is not done. You
Yeah,
have
without
no queens, you
sacrificing
have
anything.
no. Yeah.
yeah, and the fly block too. So he's got the mutas, he needs to wait for this overlord to build. And then needs to wait for larva to regenerate to build more.
And it's the exact same
Yeah.
build. Like the supply block is in the exact same place, and you know, so it's just something that like seems like it would be.
It's so fixable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, like you can add 2 lines of code to the thing that just says, at this point, like it could literally be timestamped. At this point, build 1 more overlord. At this point, build a queen, inject the queen.
Yeah. Honestly, I think if you like don't want to think about it, you don't want to make it. You don't want to like really try to hit the lab and figure out the best stuff. I think when you pointed out that they had extra minerals, building 3 overlords there, so at the very least you don't have the 22 supply block, and maybe getting the hatch out a little earlier. If you don't want to mess with queens and lings, like fine, but I think those 2 at least would help. But yeah, I think lings and queen is a pretty brutal oversight to just not use it all.
I think he's grouping up more this time. He hasn't moved out yet. I think it was around now that he had already flown across the map, because I think there are only like 6.
Yeah, like 6 or 8 or something.
And then he's got 1 more at that proxy hatch that saved it from the single ling.
I'm glad that it was able to defend itself.
Yeah, but we're up to 9, and he's not moving out just yet. The gas is now depleted.
So yeah, the gas is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, there he goes. But again, they're not in sync. So these 3 are going first.
Yeah, those lose to a spore very easily.
Yeah. Make their peasants known. They can also lose to 4 queens pretty easily. 1 will lose to a spore.
1 will lose to 4 queens.
Yeah.
And the rest come in. Yeah, I mean, it just looks like there's
I
no
think,
shot.
Yeah, maybe they're just literally A moves. Yeah. Or basically by itself would have cleaned that up anyway. And then the target switch to the...
Is almost war, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the very, very abstract idea of a muta rush in general.
Yeah.
But it's got to take longer. It's got to have more oomph behind it. It's got to be stronger defensively and scouting wise. Like you have to have something to like this overlord and this ling have been in this base since like minute 2. And I've just seen everything the entire time with no like pushback at all, which just seems...
Yeah, and the whole point, like, there's no such thing as a muta rush to someone's 3rd. It's got to be, and the whole point of mutas too is evasiveness. They regen when they're pulled away. They like fairly quickly. They can hit different points from different angles. Like the whole point is to abuse that. So if something just kind of A moves them, it defeats the purpose. Now now they're just a weak army.
Yeah.
Like, you've robbed them of the two things that like surprise, mobility, regen.
It's almost like
if you
moving
just
like
stand in
adepts.
front. Yeah.
Or it's like, if you're gonna do that, build zealots. Like adepts are great if you're gonna really focus on them and micro them and
Yeah.
you know, play with shades and really like focus on the workers. But yeah, that's a really good point. Where if you're gonna have an A move unit, these are not
that's
the
not
A
bad.
move unit that you want.
We'll get the base here in the face of the two mutas that barely dent anything. These ones a little too scared to go in, given that it's just the lings. Kind of makes sense, but hopefully see the roaches make their way over.
Yeah, a little bit. Caninana's even getting into corruptors and infestors, so really showing us that if the game were to go long, Caninana does love that, you know, mid-late game caster units, getting into getting into a layer and getting into, you know, just like going down the tech tree. That Caninana is comfortable with that. So that's at least exciting and, you know, shows some potential for the future. But this one's going to end with definitely just a roach.
Yeah. I think ZVZ too is kind of not necessarily the hardest, but it's the hardest one to win, even if your opponent has no idea what's going on. So like, because it's the one that by default has the most anti-muta existence. Like, you can always see the mutas and put a spore down, even if you had no idea. Like, there's no prep needed. Whereas Terran's going to need engineering bay or something. So just by accident, Zerg has queens, and Zerg can immediately put down spores. Protoss may not have anything that shoots up, or may have like two stalkers, right?
Stalkers
they can have that. They can have no forge. Terran's going to at least have marines, but they may not have an engineering bay. They might not have anything that's like designed to deal with this. And if you surprise them with 10 mutas, maybe you do just roll.
Yeah.
But Zerg is the one that at no point, like against no one at that point in the game, is there anything less than 3 queens on their side.
Yeah, unless you're also rushing mutas and being a goose.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, having the spore be like immediately buildable after like, obviously you're going to build a spawning pool. And then also queens being one of your main like economic tools and basically just your like bridge to everything. You know, queens are great.
They're good. They're good to have around. And then, but in this case, Caninana obviously did scout it, did prep for it. The burrow is really good in that sort of situation.
Yeah.
One of the things when you're getting hit is the bounce. They may be hitting your base, but you're still losing your drones. The burrow just takes that out of the equation right off the bat too. So.
And it kind of counters that, like, mutas want to get in and get out and just get, like, 10 worker kills in 2 seconds. And so, like, just slowing it down and making you be like, well, you have an overseer or you have to, you know, really nice
also
counterplay.
Makes the roaches, too, literally invincible. So there we are for match number 1. Flipping over to match number 2 of the night. We're going to have, this one is Ketroc Zozo.
Could be still some fast matches, but this one I think is going to be really fun. I think I think dittos are fun, or mirror matchups. Sorry, my melee smasher. But I think, you know, mirrors, dittos can be very fun, but I think especially in the bot world, watching the different races kind of clash and seeing like what's really easy for some races and what's really hard for others, and you know, kind of seeing that those variables work together is really fun. And so I'm excited for this one.
Indeed. So Ketroc here, safe, macro-oriented, fan of Ravens, of course he is. Former champion in this. Weaknesses to aggression, harassment, and Eris. You're in luck because Eris is not in the tournament this season. It is Deimos that is instead. Coded from scratch. So it does have a lot of different tendencies, different behaviors than you see in other bots. Ketroc is one of the ones that plays like quite a different style to anyone else, and it can be hard to deal with. But it tends to be a very patient bot, uses like special tactics type of stuff, and if there's a weakness, it may be the early game, but it tends to have to be the very early game. Ketroc will often open up with like a PF in the natural and stuff like that, so it's not like undefended. But I'm curious if Zozo is still like zealot rushing. That's gonna be interesting.
Or like probe pulling and really early stuff.
Focused on quote unquote cheese strategies in the early game. Zozo often employs tactics like the probe rush and the proxy zealot rush. Oh, I don't know why I was there. Weaknesses to turtle builds make sense. Obviously, if you're rushing early, then that's something. Yeah, if a PF or something can get up, then that's something, but that takes some time. Initially meant as a simple sparring partner, a worker rush bot that would challenge with relentless probes. However, it's become unexpectedly effective and evolved into a standalone one. So yeah, makes sense as an origin that you would just basically build it maybe to get other bots to practice, including your own probably main bot, to practice against your worker rush, and then you found out, well, my worker rush is unbeatable.
It keeps winning, yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely seems very similar to kind of how we were talking about how like the meta evolves for ProBots in general. It sounds like Zozo was kind of made as the first iteration to a meta building, back and forth kind of.
And it does loop back. In our second season ever, the winner was a worker rush bot that then in the playoffs switched to a zealot rush bot. And that's exactly what Zozo is like now 14 seasons later.
No, I kind of remember like my first times coming in like Marine, like proxy Marines, and like I think you said that the worker rush and stuff had done well in the past, but like they were kind of falling out of fashion, and people were getting pretty good with like a single tank and a bunker. But and then we had some good games I think last year or maybe earlier this year that had some great rushes.
Yeah, definitely. There's some that are like I think the key to a lot of the rushes is that you can do things with bots that humans wouldn't do. So individually pulling, like particularly for Protoss, individually pulling the probes back to home while the shields recharge, and then just going back and back and back. That sort of micro potential is really high for a bot. And then if somebody isn't programming specifically against it with the same sort of stuff, it's just really hard to deal with. And but there's ways that people then just kind of blind counter things and stuff like, oh, okay, I just wall off and you can't do it. Stuff like that. So
I think my favorite was the I forget who it was, but whoever was putting a probe in the Terran's base and then recalling it.
Yes.
So that it would just break like the entirety of the bot. And it's like, well, it was. If you just throw it off kilter, it is not a human. It cannot like.
Can't deal with that.
Reason with it,
Indeed. So I think we are ready. Let's see if anything like that happens this time. Hopping into game number 1.
Ketroc. Zozo.
This is already a cursed run for Zozo.
Yeah, we'll see what he does do. It does look like Ketroc's going for the wall off potentially at the front as we get the proxy pylon in a really aggressive position too. I think last season we saw him do like this flower, basically one pylon surrounded by 4 gateways, but he was doing it off to the side, like in the 3rd or 4th base and stuff like that. Ketroc going with his own proxy here, but actually it looks like rallying back home. So this one, the flower right in his face.
Yeah, the flower, at least get up. The barracks, I don't know what like my preference would be for Ketroc to build. I think you build one Reaper and send it across, and then you try to defend it home. Then like you send Reapers home.
So here's Zozo going, this pylon here meant to block a wall, so you can't completely wall off in that location. He is letting it finish, which I guess still works, but potentially someone could just build a wall around you. But
it is an annoying spot where you have to use a couple buildings for that, but
So first, gateways are out and chrono boosting out the zealot. So yeah, deviation here that we're not getting all 4 gateways. So
Yeah.
maybe more went into the pylons and like focusing on that instead and saying, well, it's better that I do this and get 3 of them than not.
Yeah, and
So
maybe
we'll
a cybercore transition eventually, because I think like the math is just like if you are mining at your base fully, you should have 4 production. 4 zealot production is like what you want. So it is really interesting that it is only 3 gateways. But it was a lot of pylons
gas over here. Ketroc going for the bunker rush, but of course there isn't a base there and never will be. Yeah, had these gone right into Zozo's mineral line, then you can cut off the zealot production. I think we're gonna potentially end up with too many zealots.
Yeah, I think it's already hurting. Yeah. I also think you almost need to go Reaper over Marine. Because I think Marine, like, you just don't.
Does he have a lift off here? Yeah. So
good for him.
That landing location may not be far enough, Ketroc. It's out. It was out of vision, so it still works. He doesn't.
For now, it works. Yeah.
He doesn't know it's there. Here we get the expansion, but that's not going to get up. He has taken a gas at home. Zozo has, and
the cybercore is eventually coming.
A lot of Marines. Or it's a lot of zealots. I mean, sorry, it's not a lot of Marines. Actually, to be honest,
2 is a lot to some people. You know,
which
but
is weird. Had he had a lot more Marines and you've only got zealots, you can kind of type them potentially to death. But
yeah, well, I feel like even I don't know. I feel like pre-stim, like you almost can't even.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think probably you technically can with bots.
Yeah, you have to abuse them.
But it takes so long, and like if you have more than 1 zealot coming, like it can just get real ugly. I think Reapers are just like way better in these early game oh my god. In these early game shenanigans. I think Reapers being able to go up and down cliffs, especially against like melee units like this, but also just being able to like get the speed at which they start being disruptive is just so much greater. So being able to like get the Adept or the Reaper into Zozo's mineral line and to get one back home ASAP and get them zealots chasing him and sending him on the goose chase, like
everything.
I think you gotta go. Yeah,
I think
Reaper.
so too. I kind of wonder what Ketroc's identification there was. At some point, he said in the text that it was a cannon rush, which doesn't like that may just be based on seeing the first pylon forward. But if it identified that as a cannon rush and went into a cannon rush defense, that's kind of
Marines
odd.
Maybe make more sense or something.
Maybe, I don't know.
And
at least the idea, I mean, he was already committed to the proxy too, but that may explain why there's a factory too. That may be the idea as well. Then I need a cyclone.
Eventually.
So I don't know exactly, or a tank, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like the obviously the proxy was not in response to the flower build.
Yeah,
so like,
he had already had it out.
It was a pretty rough place to start where you're not gonna have your barracks across the map, but then you had to like once the bunker went down, it was like, well, when do the alarm bells go off? Because like the pylons in your base, like, so that was the weird spot was
it was kind of weird.
Doing a contain felt very odd.
Yeah, because even if you did think it was a cannon rush, you don't contain
on the natural.
Like the whole point, it doesn't make sense there. So I'm not sure what went off, but I think Ketroc ended up. Maybe it was just too committed to the original thing that even if it wanted to switch, it's like I don't know how to get from point A to point B on this because it's something else.
I don't diverge until 2 minutes, so like I'm doing this right now. Yeah,
I'm committed. So let's see in match number 2 if we get something different. Let's hop in now.
Ketroc. Zozo.
They see each other out here. Ketroc is going for the proxy again. And presumably Zozo the same.
Egg versus cheese. It does have the can rush
Okay,
again.
yeah.
But this one also is
This one
way more aggressive.
Yeah.
I like this though. I like the like if you're gonna do this kind of build where I'm already building such kind of large buildings that like aren't gonna get DPS down, I kind of like building them right here.
Yeah, this is just straight. This is just thuggishness.
Yeah,
To do it right
there's
in
no
the
wall
face.
that's gonna keep you out if you build them right
Like
here.
yeah.
There used to be when Print F would rush, I think it was usually against Protoss, but if they pulled enough workers that like he just wasn't getting cannons down, he would just switch to like, all right, pylons, gateways, and I will just go zealot, and like if you're chasing me this hard, you're not gonna be able to defend it. And so it looks very similar to the kind of this setup, which I love.
Yeah, we've got 3 pylons, 4 gateways, nothing in the base. Now, and once again, Ketroc going for the bunker up front.
Ugh.
If Marines just went into the mineral line, so many minerals have gone into creating this formation that you wouldn't be able to get very much out.
Yeah, you get like 3 zealots and then you're like done.
Yeah. But yeah, if Ketroc just kind of stops the bunker, then this could be a quick one yet again.
Double gas is an interesting maneuver to go for, like while you're kind of against the barrel. Like you're against the ropes. Like it seems like you're investing a lot into what could be, rather than like trying to defend. But we'll see if it pays off. Fully saturated gas, so I guess going the factory route again. But it's just such a long distance away.
He's walling him in his base this time. Although there's 2 probes on the outside that are picking off the SCDs that we're trying to get out.
Yeah, well, and like, all the stuff's in your base. I don't think this.
Yeah, not helpful. There's still a window where you can empty out the bunker and go kill all the workers and force a draw. Because there's still no gas taken. Yeah. So he could just float.
I feel like even like fully pulling the workers, I feel like you need more than like 5 Marines or whatever. Like I don't think Ketroc really has that many Marines.
Yeah, did not even lift up this time.
Because last game it was 2 Marines, now it's 4. But because you think about like you're building 2 factories, you go straight into like 6 saturation on gas, so like the mineral income was just so low that even with 4 Marines, I don't think that like beats probes somehow.
Not, probably not that many probes. Yeah.
Like you do a little bit of probe micro and like that just seems like very annoying. But we are gonna have to get into a cyber, I guess a stalker. Well, and then it gets into a dead zone and
it's in the middle. I bet you could chase it down before it gets out, but let's see what he does. The
all right, what minute?
Everywhere.
What do you think? I think 7:40, 8:15 is the end.
I think he's not going to go to a void ray. I think it's going to be.
Yeah, I feel worse and worse about it.
Yeah, like 9 or 10, I think.
All right, I'll go 12 just to go real high. Have they seen it? Can we see the vision of the? Okay, that's all.
He has to see it because it's revealed.
Oh,
anyway, right?
Yeah, it's like not even.
So
hidden.
he's just not even going for it. But the stalkers are there running around too. But
$1, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might get to 12 minutes. Because they're not building the Stargate because they keep building stalkers, but none of the stalkers are going over to the
this
freaking building.
Like, have you ever seen one of those time lapses of traffic?
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Like busy street, just like
it's just not.
Or like someone puts like a rock in the middle of the road to see if like anyone will move it, and they all just like kind of go around it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. We got 146 supply.
It'd be funny if he just hits max supply and doesn't build one, and
then says draw ?
Yeah. This is interesting.
All right,
and I don't know if he expands either. I mean, I guess they would long distance mine because there is, of course, a draw mechanic that kicks in at some point if you don't mine.
It's +0 minerals right now. I don't know if they're going to long distance.
The gas is still happening.
Can we see the main base? This will be here.
The group is there, but it's not moving.
I just want to watch the probes now because if they stop gathering resources and nothing gets produced, this will be a horribly sad draw.
So, yeah, I'm not sure what this is doing. I mean, they're just kind of rallying to a spot. But why didn't he transition to the
Void Rays again.
Void Ray
Yeah.
this time? Because that
It was
that
almost an
really
identical
the plan.
game.
Yeah. And again, he doesn't even really need to. Like, he can just go. Obviously, he could one-shot that thing with these stalkers, basically.
Dude, it's gonna be a
but he's
tie.
not going.
It's gonna be a
And
freaking draw.
He's just stopped. And so now we get the mine out. Does this kick in?
I think it has to, right? It's if
Yeah.
nothing dies,
It's
if nothing
supposed
gets
to be
mined.
a 5-minute timer. I don't know if there we go.
No.
Yeah.
No, Zozo. Oh, that's so silly.
Yeah. Draw.
That is tragic. So do we play Equilibrium again?
Don't know what we do in that case. I think we could go to the next map, and then, I mean, we're not going to run out. So I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
like, don't they like choose the? Yeah, I don't know. I think
Yeah,
in
I
a
don't know
real
what we
match,
do.
I think in a real match you play Equilibrium again.
Again?
I think it doesn't
Yeah.
count as anything. But I don't know what. I
Yeah,
don't know
I
what you
don't
guys
remember
do here.
what. Yeah, I don't remember.
I'm not part
I
of you guys.
remember only seeing a few draws.
Yeah.
I was in the audience for like at Fan Expo in like 2013 or 14 or whatever, a live draw at the tournament there. But
That's fire.
it ended up being, it was a crazy one. It was like he had gone, it was ZVP. One player had carriers, and the building of the interceptors automatically used too many of his minerals to where he couldn't make another probe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so they ended up in a stuck situation where there was a carrier floating around with no interceptors and like just static defense everywhere. And stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I guess we're calling it match 2 again, or game number 2. I don't know what it is. Yeah, so it says next game is still game 2 on Equilibrium. So maybe
that
we
one just gets
play
thrown
again.
in the dumpster, and
Yeah.
Zozo figure out that late game. You know, it's kind of how I feel in chess. Whenever I play chess, I'll like have some good moves, and then like ending the game is by far like the worst
Yeah.
of my game, where it's like, oh, I just blundered. Oh, I just blundered. Oh, I actually didn't win this game, even though you had like a king.
Yeah. Gotta be precise.
Yeah.
Be precise.
That was
Yeah. Did you
so
ever see a
sad.
clip of, it was like a couple years ago or something. I think it was it XQC? I think it was XQC, like someone, but they did that streamer versus streamer tournament.
Yeah.
And he pre-moved, he had like either 2 queens or like a queen and a rook or something. And he learned like that strategy of laddering them up.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you
where
know,
it's like you
where-
take the
Yeah.
file, take the rank, take the file, take the or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he was too close, so he pre-moved all the laddering, and then the other person moved in and stalemated themselves, so that the last one, basically when he moved one to the second rank, it was too close and it was stalemated already because of where the other one was, and and it was just a pre-move draw, and he didn't understand what happened for like 2 minutes.
That's so sad.
yeah, it was great. So yeah, draws, they're a real thing. We have to deal with it. Let's hop into the next game and see what happens. Maybe. We're waiting for a decision on what. So
we can't give it to Zozo.
So we should debate this. So there is something in our thing, but I don't know
Okay.
how it applies in this situation.
Read the thing. Is it a
So I don't have it in front of me, but I just kind of vaguely remember what it says. But we had determined early on that if another bot simply stopped doing anything, then like if you just kind of like were knocked out and you didn't move for 5 minutes, like if you entered no commands for 5 minutes, then you were considered TKO'd, regardless of whether the other player had beaten you yet. So I guess the
Okay.
question here is, since Ketroc had one building and that one building was floating, and he probably didn't do anything for 5 minutes, was he TKO'd? I think the debate then is, what if that's the strategically appropriate thing to do? It's not that your bot is broken or anything, but the strategically appropriate thing to do was nothing.
Well, I think also it seemed like Zozo's units were all on patrol.
Yes.
So I would not be surprised if for those 5 minutes there were no commands given
to the
from Zozo as well.
Maybe
because it seemed like it was something was set up that like should have eventually finished it, and then it didn't.
Yeah,
it did not seem like Zozo was actively doing anything, because I think you would be on the map with stalkers and you would find,
Yeah, you could see basic. I guess if we went back to it, you could open up the APM and see what they did.
If they actually,
we got the rest of in our ear.
Draken, are you gonna come back on? Yeah.
Yeah, because Ketroc was KO'd. Yeah. Okay. So if if hypothetically Ketroc, instead of just floating, was moving that barracks, then he would be in. Okay.
Do you know if Zozo was putting in inputs?
He must have.
Just out of curiosity.
His main army was moving.
Okay.
Like the one by the ramp, that was moving.
Was it patrolling or was it move commanding though? Because I mean, I can talk with you after this because obviously I'm gonna go with your say. Yeah.
Either way, it would have. Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions on tournament, stuff. So this is a very interesting, like
either way,
scenario.
Even if he eventually was only patrolling and entering no commands, he definitely did more so later than Ketroc did. Yeah. All right.
That makes sense,
there we go. Okay. I mean, it's all. We probably were gonna get a similar thing.
I mean, Zozo was looking pretty.
Yeah.
There were two identical like builds almost, and Zozo kind of crushed both times.
Yeah.
It was just a very interesting, weird.
Yeah, exactly. So, I figured that may be the case, and I don't know what you could do. Maybe you almost always want to have your bot just like
right-click somewhere,
hit something, right? Yeah, just so it is. Yeah. I don't know. Draw is funny.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
You always want a at your discretion rule in the rulings because there's always some baloney going on, and some person is gonna complain, and it's like, dude, you're in the tournament that I made. If I want this to like go on, we're just gonna do that. I 1000%. Always have to have.
We do have if organizer can rule on make a final decision. So.
It's the same as like the be cool clause. Like if you're just being, a person that you don't want to be in the community, like we can ask you to leave. It doesn't have to be proof of burden is on you. No, like be cool.
I think Ketroc is going to be cool anyway. He's not a complainer.
Yeah.
So he'll be watching this and being like, well, my build's fucked up.
Yeah, Zozo beat me there. I think it's safe to say.
Gotta do this again. All right, so there we have it. So Zozo going through. I guess we're going to a short break, and then we'll be back in 5 minutes with match number 3 and 4.
Of course.
See y'all then.
And we're back. I'm just here to enter us in right after break. Don't worry, guys. I won't muscle in onto your territory too long. I'm just here to remind everybody to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. But before that, let's talk about, a tie. Well, not a tie, but like the potential for a tie.
Yeah. It was a very clear one-sided tie. But it was like, oh my gosh, is Zozo really not going to be able to like just get this game and end it? I think it makes sense to give it to Zozo. I think it's a very 152 to supply to 0 seems like a pretty good spot to be in. But that was ridiculous looking as the ender.
I mean, the early weeks of ProBots, you never know what can happen, and that's the joy of it, right? You never know what's going to come down. You never know. These are the points where you're going to have a lot of bots where some of the wacky things are just going to occur. Things will be a little bit more broken. That's just how it is.
Yeah. It's whenever anyone's worried about like AI gaining sentience or something, you just show them the game and be like, "This is what they are. They don't learn. Like once they're locked in, that's the way it is. Like you have to go redo it, like to have them learn from where they are. If they're making a mistake, they will just make that mistake. That's basically it. So
and that is technically the limitation right now. I still don't believe that is the the end point, but
no.
Obviously if Google didn't get there. But then again, I feel like they didn't have the incentive to go further. They got what they wanted and they left. But
Well,
I still believe.
I think they realized that they weren't. This is controversial in the community. I've argued with people over it. They did not get what they wanted. And, then they put something on the shelf, and then they left it because the original intent was to do it unsupervised learning. I think they discovered that was not possible.
They got enough of the hype they wanted, and then they left.
Little diminishing returns at some point, probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just and sort is correct in many ways. They changed the parables of what as they got into it, and they were like, "Oh, this is actually harder than we had originally anticipated."
Move the goal.
There's a whole bunch of millions of dollars in this already. So
still very
shoot the arrow, draw the target on it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's still very impressive what they ended up with, obviously. But what their stated goal was at the beginning, they kind of quickly pushed that
readjusted.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I won't take too long because I know you guys in the audience are going to be itching to get into the next game. So I was going to remind you down into your screen below, those are the like buttons and then the subscribe. If you like what you see, you're a big fan of what you're seeing, like and subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and it boosts this channel a lot. Then the next thing you can do, I actually saw some people talking about it on Reddit, asking about AI, because I think Harsum did a game recently on his channel.
You did. I love Harsum. I was so excited to see that he was doing ProBots.
Yeah, so some people are hungry for it. So if you see those people talking about where to watch AI games, obviously our channel should be on your immediates, and then also Laughing Games as well. You can send his, but send us first, and then what comes after. Send all of it. I was giving.
Look out for number one.
Indeed. Another little game that I want to, before you hop in, that I want to plug that you pointed out to me, I think, and I played for
the
about
AI.
There's a little game,
AIs.
little learning machines. It's called, and it's on Steam. So if you're someone that maybe doesn't want to get into the coding side of things, but wants to get a sense of how this works, and like these aren't like machine learning necessarily, they contain components. They're not machine learning. But if you're interested in that stuff and you want to play around with it, there's a little game that basically is, you control one little guy and then it expands to multiple little guys, but you basically control the reward and punishment functions, and you get it to like go collect crystals and go farm and
fun fact, the creators of that are here in Toronto. They're Toronto based. Okay. So I was thinking about it. If you guys actually want me to do something on this channel, I know we're very StarCraft focused, but if you guys want me to do a little bit thing on that game, I've been thinking about it, experimenting, doing a video, whether that either interviewing the creators of it or showing the parallels between AI and stuff. I haven't figured it. Let me know.
It does. The one feature I really think is fun in it, and it's almost a simulation, but visually watching it train. So you enter kind of a training mode so that it's then practicing and you can see it's improving. In reality, I think the code is actually working in the background. It's doing something else. But it's showing you a simulation of what it's doing. So you can see visually where it's making mistakes and stuff and correct it mid-training. So if anyone's got any interest in it, check it out. I forget the price, but it's a relatively cheap game.
Yeah, fairly cheap. Yeah. And if you want me to do a video about it, make a comment about it or say something, we'll talk about it. All right. And the last thing I want to tell you, if you guys want to get started on a bot, I just threw into the chat !guide or go to versusai.net and click on the get started button, and you can get started on making your own bot today. It's really easy. This template's super simple. I made it streamlined as possible. You can get started today. All right. And with that, I leave it to the casters to take you guys to the rest of these games.
Indeed. I should, while I'm plugging games too, a cousin of mine just released a demo for a card, like a deck builder game on Steam.
I'm a big deck builder card guy.
It's called Waystones. So there's a demo up now for free, but he needs a lot of people to wish list it. So definitely check it out. The demo's there for free. Wish list it. Help him out. He's it's his first game or PC game. He's done a couple mobile ones before.
Love it.
All right, so Waystones. DominionDog here is by Doghouse, which is the collective name of Fidelina and Underdog. The new strategy is new and untested. So That is the weakness, obviously, early on in things. And when reacting to in-game events, this bot will change strategy and forward parameters from previously executed builds, such as expected army size, etc. Specific behavior of a build, therefore varies from game to. So that makes sense. So it's kind of adaptive. Even though it wants a certain build, it's going to adapt to what it's actually seeing.
Yeah, it'll always start the same way, but it gets an early scout and then tries to be super adaptive. I like it. Strategy versus Terran and versus Protoss 2 base stim timing all in versus Zerg some early Reaper harass transitioning to MMM mid game. So this is going to be a TVT. So we're going to be looking at a 2 base stim timing. Weakness: when bot moves out to attack, has no tactics for combat, needs to overwhelm with the size of army. Future tasks susceptible to lots of early cheese as well. Don't think DominionDog is going to be doing much cheese, but they didn't say anything about not having like tactics for combat, and I feel like most Terran bots have some marine at least micro, so that could be a big game changer if one has micro and one doesn't.
Yeah. Play some utility AI to try and optimize decision making, specifically with early Reaper harassment. So this is kind of what we were talking about ahead, that some of these have components of like AI or machine learning in it, but not the whole thing. And additional, attempting to build a fairly robust response to early Reaper harassment. T-Bone attempts to reposition. It's funny, without the preposition implies he wants to sleep with the Reapers. I think that maybe that's proposition. But pre-position some units at Reaper jumps and splits up, etc. to defend. So good stuff. I don't think that'll come up in the DominionDog case, although I don't know what new strategy has been deployed there.
Yeah, I like the way that they were talking about trying to kind of cut off Reaper spots. It reminds me of the Vikings chasing the Ravens that you usually call out, and kind of being able to like cut out angles and really trying to understand the more abstract kind of movement options of the different units. Because especially Reaper's kind of extra weird, you know, along with Colossus, of just like going up and down cliffs and knowing what is you know, jumpable and what's not can be very, I would think, hard and challenging to kind of defend. But I think it's always really impressive when bots are able to kind of take into account those non-linear movement kind of decision making.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. So I think we're going to end up with DominionDog from the past has tried to go relatively not super macro, but kind of like multi-base, like robust sort of thing. And it sounds like T-Bone may be fairly aggressive. So let's hop in and see what goes on in this Terran Ditto.
DominionDog.
So, okay, back to us. Okay, yeah, game froze there. We were just discussing the portrait quality.
Yeah.
You've got the dog with the hat and smoking pipe. Yeah, maybe more like a coyote. Who knows? But it's a very
gentleman, nonetheless.
Very chill
Yeah.
dog. Very chill dog. Yeah, representative of Fidelina and DominionDog. And then the other one, yeah, does look AI generated, but it is a
For
steak. A steak
Iron Man looking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy both pictures.
Yeah.
I think, who's my favorite of all time? Xena's random is pretty cool because it looks like they made it themselves. You know, it looks pretty like Photoshoppy, but you have all the different guys in there. Zozo's the instant of like the probes breaking down the building. I do love that it's like such a verb. You know, like I see that picture and it is being exploded as I, you know, witness it.
I've always liked Micro Machines, even though it's just the Micro Machine card from Hearthstone.
Oh, yeah.
But it's always then been photoshopped into different scenarios for each season. So like in a jungle with like a safari hat and a machete, or like underwater with a sea diver's helmet.
I think that's the
something like
last one I
that.
remember because
Yeah.
I think he went up against like Sharkbot, and it was
Yeah.
like a shark in the water and like a machine bot in the, just
Yeah.
like a very
Exactly.
nautical themed.
Now
kind of
he's
match.
switched. It's a different portrait, but for like 12 seasons, it was that same one, just modified. That was a good one. Sharkbot is another really good portrait.
Yeah. Jack Shark is hard to dislike.
It's just pretty good. Sharpened edge, just a knife, simple.
Yeah.
We had Tyr switched from the original Thanos to now. What's that from? I know.
I'd have to
I don't
see
know what
his-
it's from.
I don't remember what Tears
It's.
is.
I think it's like a Magic the Gathering thing, though.
Oh, or even
It's like the
yeah, it almost looks like a Dune guy too, but
yeah.
I think it is Magic maybe.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it on here now, but yeah, I like Ketroc's Raven just because I know
Yeah.
Ketroc
He's had
loves
a
his
few good
ravens.
ones. Yeah.
That's pretty cute.
That's it. I think one of my all-time favorites was Spud is just a potato. I think that was
that goes
pretty
hard.
good too.
I
Yeah.
don't think I ever casted Spud.
Okay.
Tartarus doing a pet cat is pretty good too.
Yeah.
When it's
It's a second
something
pet
close to the
cat.
heart.
Eris's original portrait was a pet cat.
well, okay, I
This
thought
is
I
another
had maybe
pet cat,
seen one
yeah.
in the past.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm trying to think of other good ones while we stall for time. If we're ready, let us know.
Yeah, we don't have to do this, but
Because it just says soon.
because yeah,
But,
I'm going like not from today, and I obviously have not done this nearly as
Yeah.
much as you. So like, unless they have a really standout one, I don't remember. But Xena is definitely a standout one. I remember that one vividly. Who else is even in here? Dovahkiin, I remember the name, but I don't remember.
It was the Dragonborn photo, like but like cartoonish though.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready. Okay, I think so. Yeah. Okay.
All right,
Let's hop into it then.
Let's
Here
look
we
at those
go.
pictures. Yeah.
Yeah.
DominionDog. T-Bone.
All right. DominionDog said they're always going to start with a depot into scout. So it looks like that is going to be how it's going to start. T-Bone looking pretty standard. Gonna do racks into gas. Yeah, nothing proxied so far. So we're at least gonna get into, probably 2-base territory. But T-Bone did say they love a nice stim timing 2-base attack. So we'll see if we get much past that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, T-Bone going for both of them kind of going for the walled off start. Pretty normal. DominionDog will get in and scout what's going on. I think Dovahkiin's was a Funko Pop of the Dragonborn.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it was.
That's not a bad one.
Yeah.
We got 2 racks out of DominionDog, which I feel like I don't hear too often. I guess sometimes like 2-1-1 is a thing, but I feel like it's usually like a 3 racks or a 1-1-1. Double Reaper harass. Okay, so T-Bone has been, did make some comments on trying to be good about positioning units to kind of counter Reaper harass. So nice that they get a scout, and nice that that's kind of something they've been working on. Reapers can get really annoying when you get a lot of them, though, and this is kind of what I was talking about with the Zozo Ketroc match earlier, where like obviously Reapers eventually fall off very hard, and eventually you do want Marines over Reapers 1000%. But this early game, like early small number situation, Reapers just like reign supreme. I feel like kind of feels like when Protoss gets too many stalker. Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
not the greatest micro, but when Protoss gets stalkers in on the Terran base like really early, the like power levels are just so different than when we reach 4 minutes, 5 minutes into the game. So really unfortunate the first Reaper goes down because I think this could have been very
Yeah, you can spiral a bit with
gains momentum.
this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just kind of retreat with it. And luckily, I don't think too much was like hanging on that being successful,
Yeah.
although he is still making more. The grenade there, it does catch someone, but it's funny. He puts it in front to like anticipate them still coming.
Chasing him, yeah.
They kind of haven't, but hit one there at least.
The fact that they're continually building Reapers, I'm just gonna say what I just said again. Early on, great unit.
Yeah.
But you do not want a
loses
when you get 50 supply, 80 supply, like you do not want your army to be a bunch of Reapers.
Yeah, I remember the days too of like when people would go with like a Reaper Rush opening, and then at some point, like there was a discussion of like at what point do you break it off to like keep them alive, join your army, and the answer generally was never. that you're almost, they're so bad once you get several minutes into the game that the supply they're taking is worse than having them alive.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just that they have so no value.
It feels like a depths where like if you have them, like you almost want to sacrifice. Like if you stop them at like 5 minutes, get a drop and then have them as like a distraction in a different spot because like you're not gonna get the value out of them.
You've got to backdoor them, run them in, do something, whatever. Like they have no value in the army.
Even this, like it's not worth it to send them home. Yeah, just keep them over there. At least have them scouting. As soon as T-Bone leaves their base, get them back in that main base. But I think having Reapers on your side of the map is like there are like 4 different things that went wrong for that to happen. You know, you're building them, this is wrong, and then like not using them. The supply is not going to be freed up, which DominionDog is actually supply blocked right now. 52 out of 54, like...
Yeah, to that point, like they're... I mean, at this point, that's all he's got, but...
Yeah, you can't kill them all.
Yeah, going from the Reaper Raven build is not something you see a lot. But that's what we're getting.
Yeah, and are the barracks, do they still have no add-ons? Because that also is something that, like... Reapers and add-ons are both things that you have to... when you're thinking of like humans playing TVT, it's kind of like you have to build as much or delay add-ons as much as your opponent is forcing you to do. Yeah. Like if they have a Hellion coming across, you do need 3 Reapers. If they build a Marine first, you don't need more than 1 Reaper. And you can get into those add-ons really fast. So it's kind of like this balance of what do you need to defend? Because I remember my first TVT, I am terrible at Terran, but I built like 1 Reaper and like kind of opened up like how I see Terran versus Protoss. And then, the other Terran has like 3 Reapers, a Hellion, like they're not going into the mid game. They're still playing the early harass. And I, try to get into the mid game. So like, that's kind of the game you're playing is like figuring out exactly what they've committed. But T-Bone has committed nothing to DominionDog's side.
Yeah.
And DominionDog still has like gone so hard into the early game. I'm going to be amazing. And then mid game, I'm going to fall off like lead.
Yeah, he's, I guess, transitioning now, which is good. But, it's just a bit late, given that this wasn't doing anything. He's got the little swarm them in front and 2 Marines to back him up. And, just kind of weird. But he is now getting 1-1, getting Marauders, getting Marines, things like that. He could catch up. He's got the better economy at this moment. We're looking at 4 bases to 2.
The double expand, will be huge if it gets there, but T-Bone did say that they love a good stim timing, and stim is already on the way. 3 tanks, way more Marines. I think once T-Bone gets to DominionDog's door, it might be a pretty quick fight.
I mean, this could be tough if he just continues across now, where a good 50 army supply ahead here,
and better army.
Better army. Yeah, just
it's like
better
reverse
army.
of roaches, where it's like This is not bloat. This is like all the good stuff.
Yeah. There we get a pitch battle, and you can kind of see the ineffectiveness and meltiness of those Reapers.
And this is pre-stim. This is like the worst timing T-Bone could have possibly taken, with like 3 upgrades still on the way, and it still looks like not even close.
On top of the base, cancels that, or it goes, taking out the turrets, and there's just no time to get a real army together.
Yeah, it seemed like
tank's almost even irrelevant. Like,
I mean the fact that stim was irrelevant.
Yeah,
is such a big like. If you're going for a 2-base stim timing and you don't have stim and it still works out this well, then it just like you were gonna
so
be
far
fine.
behind.
Yeah. It felt like DominionDog kind of played like both sides of like being the most aggressive without actually being aggressive, and then just trying to transition to like the most greedy while still not having like the base, you know? And it just kind of like the worst of both worlds of like you have no infrastructure early on because you went for Reapers, but then you didn't do any damage, so then like once you explode your infrastructure, you have no army and you have no defense or much to actually stand on.
Yeah, and it wouldn't take it a lot. You saw like the effectiveness of a single tank that came out there, killing a lot of stuff. But then the reinforcement came from the third base and helped out. But just kind of too late, way too late to transition. Like unless you're really succeeding in your initial Reaper push, there's no reason to ever build like a 7th.
Yeah.
Let alone the 20th or whatever you got.
Yeah, if you're gonna bring them home, then stop building them.
Yeah.
If you're gonna use them, that's great. But even it seemed so weird because even the first one, it did not seem like the Reaper was what unit this bot's comfortable with.
Yeah.
It did not seem like this is like
it wasn't.
I know how to use Reapers. I'm gonna build 27 and I'm gonna get 100 worker kills.
Yeah.
It was like the first Reaper did 0 nothing, and that's like the unit you're all out on.
Even just the control, like one of the biggest things of Reapers, just the pathfinding control. When he got challenged, he ran into the Marines.
Yeah.
And I think maybe because he was going for the ledge that was the Reaper jump down, but like it has to know to not do that through enemy units. Like,
well, and if it would have just fought straight up, like one Adept or one Reaper versus 2 Marines, like you just kite that normally. Like you don't have to disengage from the whole thing. You like easily win that. That's like your perfect. Again, the low numbers is what you want. The 1v2 is like ideal. Once you get into 3v7, 5v12, then you just start getting mowed down.
That's it. Yeah, because the whole idea is that you can pull back, you regen, they don't, and then you come back in with the second guy. Then you pull back, then you come back in with the third.
Yeah, and your shots are a little quicker. You get a little more range. Like yeah.
Exactly. So that's the way you want to go. So see if DominionDog goes for a similar sort of opening here. Maybe finds a route in that then does work a little better. But it just doesn't look like that was the unit it was made for. So hop into game number 2. Let's find out.
DominionDog. T-Bone.
All right, DominionDog coming out with his with their scout, and DominionDog did say that they kind of tend to do the same build opening and kind of tries to adapt based on what their opponent's doing, but it's going to be another TVT, and I don't think T-Bone's going to do too much different, so we'll see. The positioning of the barracks are already kind of different and weird though, so maybe that'll be different, but it is another double barracks early on, and we'll see if they delay the add-ons and just go straight Reaper again.
Take a look around the base here, find items and their stuff.
And the first Reaper
On the way. Scouting normal. Aaron, early Reaper Banshee.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
if the Banshees actually come out, I don't know if that's. I didn't see what tag they labeled the last one, honestly.
Yeah,
I know they eventually got a what's it called? They had a starport and a tech lab, I think, before getting any like factory unit. So they definitely could have gone into like try to get into Banshee last game as well, but it's kind of like the opposite of the Muta problem, where like if you're gonna rush it really fast, that kind of sucks. But also if you're gonna build 27 Reapers and then rush it, it's not really a rush. You gotta find somewhere in the middle where you don't lose early game and you have no map presence whatsoever, but you also don't commit everything to the early game where your technological, gotcha moment is like 20 minutes down the game, Okay, whew.
yeah, gets away at least, but yeah, that's a tough one when they're right there.
Yeah, you just don't get anything done.
You're dead by the time you get up there. But we'll see as a second and third coming across.
Yeah, and momentum can be a big factor in this kind of Reaper play. Just don't go up this way. I feel like that that they're here, and they're building a low ground CC. So like the amount of you get a lot from harassing the natural when they're building on the low ground. You can cancel that easily or at least delay it.
This is something we should bring up to anyone that's kind of newer to this. Is while we know they're there, remember that the bot does not know they're there.
Yeah.
It doesn't remember. So unless people specifically code in, and usually when they do, the memory is really, really short. But this has been a habitual thing because one side loses vision of the high ground as soon as they're not there. As soon as the Reaper goes up and jumps down, most bots, unless you specifically code it to remember, immediately forget that there's units up there.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair.
So they don't, so when they then come in with the second wave, they don't know. They may know there's units. They may have tagged, like, okay, there's 4 Marines in existence, but they don't know things like locations.
Yeah, DominionDog did at least say T-Bone's going mass Marines, so they're at least getting a tank out and getting a little bit, but combat shields first is a little bit of an interesting play.
Yeah.
The Reapers are still alive and didn't do. I think they got one SCV kill that was scouting. That's about it.
Yeah, it didn't do anything, but this is a much quicker transition. We were well into 6-7 minutes before you transitioned last time. We're not getting that.
Yeah, I think we have 5 Reapers or something, or maybe just. Okay, 5.
Yeah, 5 looks like.
But I think before, it was like 8 or 13 or something. A pretty ridiculous number.
It was somewhere in the Fibonacci sequence of, of 5, 8, 13, 20, 21.
And it looks like Banshees might be put on the back burner because of the Marine call out. Seeing that many Marines in T-Bone's base, I think, kind of had DominionDog go a little bit more defensive.
Then is DominionDog going to double expand, something like that. It seemed kind of the timing of that double expand and kicking up his army last time was at the exact wrong time because it's when like T-Bone moved out. But we'll see this time. I also don't know because you had pointed out the timings didn't line up to the stem. Was T-Bone intending to move out at that time anyway, or did he only do so because DominionDog moved against him and then he kind of chased him across the map? That wasn't totally clear.
Yeah, I think with the tanks unsieging, it seemed like T-Bone wanted to move out. I think the big thing was T-Bone did not expect DominionDog to double expand. And so I think T-Bone ran into buildings and army way earlier than expected. Because I think it was let's see if they have let's harass their natural or see if they have a third. I think they got to the 4th base and DominionDog already had a base there and it just kind of kicked off a little early. But yeah, it could have also been kind of triggered early with those 7 Reapers being annoying on the map or something else.
This push out is dangerous in that if it just tries to walk up a ramp, you're going to take a bunch of shots. If this was flat ground, this is more even. Yeah, we're gonna get some blasts here, and it doesn't even retreat.
Yeah,
So
now
we're
the
just
tanks
good.
can't see, and now it's just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty ill-advised. And now he may
Well,
made in some death here, and if he's not ready to go, this could actually be fine.
yeah, that actually is a pretty
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
Basically everything but the tanks died for both,
Yeah.
from both sides.
Yeah, that's one of those indecision is way worse than any action.
Either
you could have
decision,
taken.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, hanging out on the ramp, so both players basically actually leave this thing with pretty much the same army supply they went into it with.
Yeah,
But,
and with the DominionDog taking the expand behind it, seems like it should be a
probably in
pretty
his
big.
favor.
Yeah, in a couple minutes there should be a big economic swing to DominionDog. Maybe didn't need the auto turret, but
Yeah.
it was like a single marine with
Possibly
like 1v50.
Possibly not, but yeah, milling around here. And I'm not sure whether T-Bone is going to be triggered to go. How much does this reset trigger to go? Is it timing based, or was it based on like a supply number? In which case you kind of drop, 20 or 30 there that weren't necessary.
Yeah, 'cause I feel like there's so many things that could trigger it, where it's it's either an upgrade, it could be 4 tanks. I feel like a lot of Terrans, it's like a tank number that like, all right, now we're strong, or a medevac number. So yeah, it's interesting to see what. I mean, obviously, whatever it is, it's been triggered. But we'll see how good it is with that marine count being so shredded down, kind of.
Yeah.
But DominionDog is not set up.
He's okay, yeah, and he's even moving out. Yeah, the tank siege here is going to be super key. But his bio getting way too far in front of all this stuff. The tanks can help you if you're land. He'll retreat back to it a little bit. And
Yeah, I wish they
doing
had
pretty good in the end. Yeah.
I wish I had a little bit more distance on that high ground, like a little bit closer to the low ground to kind of keep everything back. But
But
so
not too bad.
far, not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the onus is on T-Bone with Dominion having the third base.
Unsieging at a terrible time though. Oh, but something buffered the shots in the middle, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
I think the
and then
Marauders
here
coming
the
down.
flank, the flank here that was kind of unintended, but I think it worked. That was just the way that they were going. Ends up cleaning this pretty well.
Yeah, and if everything resets, I mean, the upgrades are starting to get pretty out of hand for Dominion.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the economic lead was already like going to be something, but the upgrades are going to get like, I think starting to get like really crazy of like 2-2 versus like 1-1 or something, which in a mirror gets really rough. And like with Marines just being ridiculous with upgrades, and yeah, the scaling is going to get ridiculous. There's even a 4th base coming now from DominionDog. I don't think T-Bone's made a 3rd in his base yet.
Yeah, no, doesn't look like it from the mini-map. Yeah, I think both the DominionDog's going to have a hard time pushing up that ramp in the end. I think eventually he needs some more air to just give vision to make a better decision there. But he may, if T-Bone doesn't move out, though, he's going to get starved out pretty quick. You can see from the mineral income, we're at 1,600 to 3,600 on that side, and the worker count obviously much lower for T-Bone, as he's only on 2 base, and at this point he doesn't even need that many.
Yeah, I was gonna say, eventually the worker count isn't even where it matters. It's just if you're still in your natural and everything's getting mined out, you're just out of money.
Get the push back for whatever reason. DominionDog retreated all the way back to the
Like,
main.
But he's getting healed up by the fountain
Yeah.
before he comes back out.
Yeah. Dive the fountain. T-Bone tentatively moving across as he gets to the sight blocker here. If he just jumps though and the army's completely out of position,
It
this
still
could
might
be
not
good.
matter.
This doesn't. It may not, but I mean, at least, yeah. No,
'Cause, like,
if he could kill this and retreat or something, or
Yeah.
go to the
Or
others, but I don't think
If
he
if T-Bone was expanding behind this, I think then you have like a shot.
And yeah.
But I think the 3 o'clock is a planetary fortress. I don't know about 6 o'clock, but I feel like if you just keep your natural in the 3 o'clock, if that is a planetary fortress, I don't think they ever break it.
Yeah. Now at main contact, DominionDog has the advantage. He has the upgrade advantages He's
The army supply advantage. Yeah, just everything.
everything.
He hasn't stimmed yet, so the entirety of T-Bone's army is in yellow. And, I mean, they have to move command, but because they're move commanding, the medevacs aren't healing while they move back too, so it's like just brutal. Concussive shells on the tank. And honestly, because T-Bone came down, DominionDog might be able to just move up that ramp now that the tank count's kind of reset. And
yeah, if he gets enough here, he can
and just
go.
a straight
he can
up,
even just rush it.
just a 2-2 versus a 1-1 for upgrades, which again, Terran gets kind of like crazy with upgrade. You know, like the scaling that happens to bio is just like so much more ridiculous than every other unit.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you're taking every upgrade is like a 20% upgrade versus for other units it may be 5 or 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a Marine, it's just an outsized difference. Yep. And the overwhelm and overrun here, and he'll clean everything up. So, yeah, T-Bone just doesn't seem to have that economic second gear to kick in. So, yeah, DominionDog obviously doing a much better job of holding off what was like still pretty decent timing from T-Bone's side. And I think DominionDog got a little lucky. I don't know if we'll see a replay of it, but when his bio kind of like auto flanked the tanks.
Yeah, like the Marauder and like 5 Marines
yeah.
came kind of around and took 1 tank shot when the 3 tanks unsieged. Yeah, that split second was actually huge.
Was really important, yeah. So we've got our first game 3 of the night, and we're going to be on Gresvin here. Not totally sure then what's going to happen. I think success and transition of the Reapers is going to make a difference. That was obviously the difference here. If they were even a little later, then I think T-Bone would have rolled there if you had probably even 2 to 4 more Reapers compared to that earlier bio. Because there was a point there that there was no bio and it was just 3 tanks.
Yeah.
So if that was like one last, like, it would have been a disaster. The ramp there also played a huge role.
I want to talk about the tank shots, but if we're ready, we can get into it.
Let's go into it. We'll talk in game. Yeah.
DominionDog. T-Bone.
All right, let's talk about it. Yeah, so I want to see exactly what is the trigger. I should have looked at the time too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the T-Bone 2-base timing, what actually makes them move out? Because I think it might be, and I feel like it might be the 4 tanks. Because I feel like Terrans do love kind of tank numbers as a indicator.
Usually a good trigger. Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that DominionDog had that kind of let's both destroy our bio force. I feel like that could have played also a huge part in being able to hold that hold the push on their side. And then obviously DominionDog seems like if they hold the 2-base timing, they're going to get into 3rd bases faster and upgrades and all that good stuff. But yeah, that reset felt huge. And that ramp in the natural for T-Bone. Yeah,
that's what caused it to do so much damage, is because they were all clumped up on a ramp. Here you've got the entrance into a natural is flat. This time the ramp is much further out. So, one, you may not get the initial massacre. If DominionDog goes for any attack, it may not be as bad in the initial attack. And then T-Bone's response back, though, may also not be as bad. So it kind of depends how you engage. My worry, based on what the first one looked like, is even if it's flat, was DominionDog going in with Marines way too far ahead of where the tanks were.
Yeah. I think you definitely, DominionDog can definitely fumble that, where like, if the tanks don't get siege and aren't able to actually get damage, you're just totally screwed. But what I'm almost afraid of is
slightly better here.
Probably not a smart move though. Okay, I almost like that. Going back up, took balls.
It did. The initial thing, because the Marines were still walking there, they didn't get the shots while he was on the low ground. So
Yeah.
that made a difference, but then kind of killing himself after that didn't help.
But I was gonna say if DominionDog pushes out like they did last time, and because they're not going up a ramp, doesn't get shelled to bits,
Yeah.
and then doesn't push hard enough where they can actually get their tank set up, and they get the marine shots that T-Bone suffered last game. Because I think the big thing is T-Bone in their when they're telling us about their bots and stuff, the fact that they put they're not really good with unit micro and the combat tactics, I think is what they called it, is not their strong suit. I feel like if some weird tank interactions on their side of the map happen where the Marines are doing the same weird dance, it could be another that could be what kind of sets the dominoes going.
I want to point out this is really subtle, but I like it. So the Reaper that's going up here, see what he's doing right now? He's switching out the damaged Marine to the ramp and then bringing a fresh Marine.
T-Bone is. Okay, yeah. Keeping two workers, or two Marines.
Two Marines.
There.
So the first one, when we first saw it, he almost killed one of the Marines.
Yeah.
So it's over there now. These three guys have all been hurt, and he keeps transferring over a fresh one. So there's always two fresh guys there. Now, this may be a little different. Gets one, but now the army can swing over and so on.
But now this is a good
Yeah.
number versus number for the Reapers still right now, I think. It's going to get scary once any other unit comes out. If we get a tank or if we get even just more Marines. But right now this is a much... Well, now he's not being aggressive, but... I feel like the last time with 6 Reapers, there was never a fight with all 6 Reapers shooting.
Yeah,
and that seems
there
like
is
such
a window. There's a window there to at least get value out of these. You can lose them, but if you can trade them for 3 Marines, at this point, that would be value. And he's still making them, and this is the issue.
Yeah.
He hasn't done the full transition out.
Well, especially because you're making Reapers and double expanding, which is you're taking 2 parts of the triangle and going to such extremes that it seems like it wouldn't work either way.
And here's this Raven again. So despite, I think now, we missed it on the first one. He said it this time. Despite him constantly saying the word Banshee, there's no Banshees.
Never been a Banshee, yeah.
There's never been a Banshee.
Well, and this one was weird because it said the Marines again, but it also said too many bases.
Yeah.
Which I know that the DominionDog didn't really go into the natural the last time because I was mad that he wasn't harassing the natural and was only going in the Reaper jump spot. So maybe it was literally just they didn't see the natural last game until after a certain point, and then it doesn't warrant a tag or something. But
yeah,
interesting to see very similar builds getting different triggering different kind of tags from DominionDog, because I think it has been, from your and I's point of view, pretty identical what T-Bone is doing. But I think DominionDog's been labeling it slightly different kind of every time that they've been playing against it.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's kind of maybe it's based on literally what he's seeing, just based on the shape of the map and how the Reapers are moving in. But yeah, he's coming to different conclusions. This is really similar to the first game.
I was gonna say this one
this exact attack.
And I think it's because he didn't say too many Marines or whatever. Because last game he went into tanks a lot faster. And yeah, first game this was what the push looked like, and I freaking hated it. And it's gonna be the same. Yeah, 2 tanks beats 100 Reapers.
Yeah. It gets out of there, I guess this time. But again, there's not a lot of value in keeping that stuff alive. Here's the T-Bone stim timing, and he hasn't moved out yet.
We've got, 2 tanks so far? Yeah. So maybe it's not a tag.
This is the move?
I don't know what it is. Because, this one seems like there's not enough meta value. The amount of Vikings seems weird.
I think his army supply might be it. So he was around 75 army supply when he moved out later in the second game, or in the
last
first game.
Yeah.
Oh. I think it might be 75 army supply.
Okay.
But the composition is different because so many Marines died. You ended up with more tanks.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, this is pretty strong.
And I guess he sees the Ravens, then he builds like a couple of Vikings
Yeah.
and just readjusts as
Yeah, and he
being
just,
necessary.
just crushed that. Auto turrets, you know, with no backup, taken out really quick.
Yeah, especially with Stim being done now. And this one, the timing actually worked out really well with. It even seemed like the fight happened early again, but Stim was just perfectly ready.
Exactly. And I mean, you can see DominionDog's production bar there pumping now, but it's a little late.
Yeah, I mean, it showed it Reapers for forever, and then it had the double expand, so you know it's gonna eventually, you know, explode. But yeah, that in between timing is just like you can't have both worlds. You can't have as many early game units as possible, and then also have a robust economy that's gonna be able to be defended.
I like this T-Bone split up too, and it must be intentional because he's done it all 3 games, but he's had a detachment go to another base.
Yeah, almost like contain it and then like finish out the extremities. Yeah, very clean from T-Bone. Game 2 got a little bit funky, and once DominionDog got past the threat of T-Bone's 2-base push, obviously looked extremely dominant and, very, very good in the middle, late game, TVT, expanding and getting all those bases. But yeah, the early game just is not panning out the way that they want it to, and I think it's just don't go into the Reapers. It doesn't seem like that's a build that would be good for you.
Yeah, it's not a strength. It doesn't look like, so yeah.
And you have the SCV so early. Like, you're already scouting and you kind of see what you need to see.
Yeah, some of the decision making there with the Reapers just kind of, don't go heavily in something if it's not optimized yet. But because once like you said, making just kind of a standard army and holding the 2-base push worked. So yeah, I lean more into that, because that seems like a stronger approach. But there we go. T-Bone will go to the winner's match. DominionDog, of course, everyone that loses today, to reiterate, not out, just goes down to the loser's match and can claw their way through the consolation match through the end. They just have to take the hard way to do it. So still will be a chance for these guys to come through. But let's hop on to match number 4, the last of our night. This one might be the longest. Most
but BenBot always has the opportunity.
Yeah. So we've got another TVT. It is BenBotBC versus TyrT. And BenBot just quite defensive a lot of the time. Will sometimes open up with like an attempted bunker contain, but it's not all in at all. It's very light. And then BenBot is trying to get to a later game, obviously, to get to those BCs. Tyr varies a lot. Tyr has been known to just pull out some cheeses specifically, but Tyr is also kind of more of a stable, slightly later game. We've seen a lot of Thors lately, Ghosts against Zerg, stuff like that.
Yeah. I was like, Thor seemed like such a good like TVT late game Trump unit. you know, just if you get them up, you're pretty good.
Indeed. BenBot here, goal is to build a lot of BCs, uses bunkers. It basically uses bunkers and even its own bunker rush as an attempt to delay for the later game. It's just that sometimes the bunker rush wins by accident.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was never put in to win. It was to buy time to then safely get to where it wanted to go, but that's often been successful. Weaknesses as Mass Thors and Tempest, and unfortunately we have seen Tyr go into Mass Thor successfully in the past. Saves game results, uses his info to decide what build order, and selects builds specific to some opponents. So yeah, we do see that in some cases it just abandons, it does not try the proxies or anything like that. BenBot, 5 years old, I guess, and it's definitely come a long way. BenBot, when it first came, just literally was just a rush straight to battlecruiser, then tried to teleport to the other side. So much more nuance has been added to that in the middle game to get to that late game. Because before it wasn't a late game battlecruiser, it was really an attempt to win with like the first battlecruiser.
Yeah.
Now it's totally different.
Then we got Tyr, gonna try to anticipate what their opponent is doing and adapt to it. Weak to some types of early aggression. Late game it can play reasonably well. but doesn't always adapt to the opponents enough. I feel like this match that's not going to really come into play too much, because if you go Thors against BCs, you're just going to have a great time. Tier has its own build system and a task management system for assigning tasks to units. We also have our own server where we run test games. So far, Tier's played almost 900 games on there, so we expect many more.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a while, so probably as many more at this point.
Yeah, 1,200, 1,400 something.
So, and Tier has 101,000 lines of code. We saw other bots that we have 260.
So it varies.
Yeah, it varies. Yeah, you can make them complex.
And 1 year older
Yeah,
than BenBot, the senior, the senpai in this matchup.
indeed. And 176 builds. Not only that, but Tier has the author, or team now, has one of each race on the ladder. So definitely big. And we have Tier listed here as 7 appearances. I think that's for Tier T.
Specifically,
Tier the author has been in since the beginning.
Omnipresent, really.
Yeah, and like 3, again, the multiple bots combined, I think 3 championships. So, so we listed the last one there, but he's got multiple.
Yeah, and BenBot, I feel like, is kind of a very, very strong example, if not like the perfect example, of balancing the rushes. Like you said, they kind of started as like just get ABC out as fast as you can, which kind of feels how like the Muta Tartarus was kind of playing, where it's like, if I don't beat you with this when I build them, I am losing. And I'm kind of ignoring every other like aspect of the game to do this. But I feel like BenBotBC has like a really nice, like, there's a very clear goal that they want to get to, but they're not going to ignore everything around getting to that goal. Including the early game, not letting your opponent go crazy economically. You know, there's a lot of like kind of stop gaps or places that like kind of double checks and like makes sure that it's not getting kind of lazy or too ambitious, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's the way that BenBots progress really goes to how a lot of like human learning happens on things. Of like, the goal is to do this. Like, I know I can win if I can get to this state. And that your first tendency is, well, then I'm going to build directly to that state. And then along the way, you find, well, I can be killed at this point, or I'm weak at this point, or I need to stop them from doing this at this point. And you kind of then iterate on what you're doing, and you delay getting to that end state, but then you start getting there much safer and much
you
more
guarantee
robustly.
it kind of. Kind of starting at the end of the maze and then going backwards.
And that's kind of why I've always thought, like, people like poo-poo stuff like cheese, but I'm like, if you go with certain types of cheese, you end up learning so much nuance around that sort of thing that like trying to build that in such a way that it stays intact regardless of what your opponent does is what you've learned from it. So it's not just like execute this. There's so much more to it.
Well, and I think you said it when we were off stream. I think it was during the break, but what you're saying when, you know, like when you're trying to go through people like watching their own replays, and it's like try to find moments where you could kill them and like figure out how to kill them in those spots. I always kind of think of you know, micro is kind of my favorite part of the game, and cheese has a lot more emphasis on micro. I always think of like macro is kind of how you survive, and micro is how you win. Yeah. And so you do have to survive, or else you will lose. But you cannot win from, you know, you have to be able to attack and be able to, you know, actually, when you have the units, do the thing and win the game. Exactly. But you also cannot only know that, because if your macro sucks, you will lose from
you have to
10
know
different
the flip,
spots before.
The flip too, of like, it's not just, when do I look at it and say, I could have killed my opponent at this point? Is there any point in your game where they could have just killed you? Yeah, and you're kind of just cheating it to get through, because it may get through now, but that won't get through later.
Works in bronze. Silver, they get a little harder. Gold, they get a little harder.
Indeed. So I think we are ready to go now. Let's hop into game 1 of our last match.
BenBotBC. Tier.
Yeah. And doesn't Magic just kind of steal from?
Yeah.
Now there's a whole Lord of the Rings one.
They have their own stuff, but yeah, they have like Doctor Who magic and
Yeah.
yeah. All right, we were talking a little bit off,
Yeah,
off topic. BenBot is getting the proxy in right here.
Yeah, we're talking about the tier portrait there and where it's from, and I think it is a Magic tier.
Yeah, if people in the chat know,
Yeah.
or if
Yeah.
Tier's there, let us
I'm
know.
sure people know. That's one of the things. I'm aware of it. I know a lot about Magic, but I've never played it, and I've never had any.
Oh, I play tons, but there are also a billion cards, so I don't know enough to be like, oh, that's ABC. Okay, triple racks with one proxied, which
Interesting.
I kind of like the
I've never seen this
fake
at all out of
from BenBot, yeah.
at all, anything like this. Yeah. So definitely something new going on here. Yeah,
And this
building
means-
directly in his natural. He's never done anything like that.
And just like the red herring of having two barracks at home too is,
Yeah.
is very nice. Although Tier has noticed that it is late because
Yeah.
the bunker is going down, so it was not a fully successful, trick. But the Marine's here.
Yeah, it'll get up before that is ready. One Marine on the other side too.
Didn't get the first shot, I don't think though.
Picked off the red units, but they do live, and long enough for the bunker to go.
Damn. Also, I don't know how easy it is, but like prioritizing an SCV making the bunker would be infinitely more important than the supply depot that was going down.
I will say, if you think about this from what BenBot's stated end goal is, if your end goal is to get to BCs and you just want to slow your opponent down, this has definitely done that.
Yeah.
He's bunkering up. He may clean out this stuff here. Like, I think the one Marine up was really just to build the bunker on the low ground safely. This was just to maybe disguise it. And
The fourth barracks is kind of throwing me though. If the
and
main goal is to
other
go into
thing-
BC,
the other thing's the no gas. That probably
also throws
that
a
probably
little bit.
throws it a little bit. But yeah, you could do this. It looks like it's a much stronger commit than
The normal-
BenBot's ever done. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because even when he does like the one bunker, I guess usually it's not on a ramped map, but it doesn't feel like it's in the natural. It feels like it's like
Yeah, no, it's
in that middle spot between like third, fourth, and natural. That like low ground weird.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
It's-
just gas at this point.
It's like if you are going to try to get a group of people together, don't have them hang out right where you don't want them to be.
Yeah.
It seems like the worst place to group them up is where they're gonna get triggered to go fight a bunker every once in a while, one-on-one. Yeah, this is gonna be brutal. No gas means it's not going anywhere, so it's only gonna be more Marines, and with the Marines bleeding out, it means it's only gonna be 5 Marines at a time. Like there's just so many limiting factors going on right now that it's almost just over now.
Yeah,
kind of
so
done.
he still hasn't. Now he's taking the expansion. Maybe he'll try and move out of it. But yeah, this is a lot.
I feel like the gas is even more important than the expansion. It's not, the mineral isn't your problem. It's there's
Yeah.
nowhere to go. There's no tech or like next step.
Yeah, we've got Liberators coming for tier. They're the tank on the low ground. That's going to be able to hit. Proceed to that.
Yeah, tank lib is for like 2 units, one of the most crazy strong combos in the entire game. Like
Yeah.
you can really just close off a ramp or like break into places. So if tier moves across the map, I feel like that duel of units is just like so freaking scary.
Now I think we get the big cleanup. Barracks here. Yeah, I'm just wondering if anything does trigger. He is going to take a gas now. He has one.
Yeah, natural's up. there's like some things kind of going for him, but 29 Marines lost is a pretty rough stat.
Yeah, hard to catch up on the tech at this point. Like if tier just goes right now.
And it's the same thing. You only have 4 units, but like you're also what's it called, patrolling like right outside the place that you don't want to be. And so there's obviously some attention to detail of it's not just a streamline, which now it kind of is, but like before it's not just one at a time that's doing it, but there is like not enough distinction of when to go in and where is going in and where is safe, and kind of those labels and figuring all that out. But yeah, this seems like it'll be a long game, but tier will get it pretty easily.
Yeah, it's long at tier's mercy. Although BenBot has a worker, he can if tier doesn't do anything, he can transition out of this. But yeah, there we just get the factory now. But it would have to be a pretty rough.
It'd have to be like maxing out and then like still playing defensive.
Yeah.
Like extremely defensive. But I mean, we saw Zozo almost lose the draw. You know, like you cannot do stuff. That some bots do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to see this marine trickle turned off.
Yeah, at some point.
This is just the
I'm
drip,
keeping
drip,
him back.
Drip. Yeah. Because he'd be easily up to like 30 army supply if he just stopped this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then you're maybe going from somewhere, but he can't bleed. I'm hoping, I keep hoping there's like a thing that happens that changes what the strategy is.
A certain like worker number, or like once the Thor's out, or a, you know,
something like that, to be like, okay, the
like,
new
we're
command,
close to BCs. Like we can
the
kind
new
of
command is group with the Thor, like something like that.
Yeah.
But
because these Marines,
hasn't happened.
They've just been streaming for like 7 minutes.
Yeah, because things don't usually, like, I'll say there's tons of bots that don't transition at all, but things usually don't half transition.
Yeah,
like you usually don't,
because everything else is going into not Marines.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so it's weird that these are still doing that.
Doesn't seem like the game plan is to close them out with the full Marine proxy, but the mini map is just such a sad sight of like, they're all just walking to their death.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of gas there. You know, the production tab looks legit, which is cool.
Yeah.
You know, because, and like you said, there is the transition. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's continuing on it just as if like he's got this one building that is just doing, or I guess 2 buildings that are doing something without the rest of his anything being aware of it. If there's some other piece of code that's running irrespective of anything. Yeah, 60 Marines, 61.
I think it was about like 30 Marines when that push actually ended. So the slow drip has been brutal.
Easily, I think he'd easily be at the army supply, and he'd be, you know, maybe not fine, but he'd be much better.
Finer.
Yeah, he is. Still got the worker lead. He's going to a 3rd base. He's like, it's not terrible. But
until tier moves out,
yeah.
So I just have a feeling 2 Liberators, 5 Viking, 4.
So now the tank is doing it. Well, there's no excuse for that.
Yeah, and that might even almost trigger tier to move out. Still playing so defensive.
Yeah, he must have a either just a max supply number. We'll get there soon enough too.
No, tier go.
Okay, units have stopped streaming, but it's because there's a random unit
on their side that they're chasing.
In the 9 o'clock position, yeah. And now do they go back to it? Sure. Maybe a slightly different angle this time.
Yeah, maybe they'll hit their 3rd and not go to the natural, which is souped up.
But yeah, that's a shame, because I think you could have pulled out of this, maybe, and regrouped. I mean, then do you still win the maxed fight? I don't know, but you could definitely pull it. Given how passive tier has been, you could have got up to a reasonable.
Yeah, well, and how quickly it was kind of squashed, where it's like once they have a tank, you know you're not like winning with Marines. You can kind of just transition it. Yeah, it feels like the Reapers from last series, where it's like if you just transition faster, it's not a bad play, but you can't make 60 Marines and have them all die, or 10 Reapers and do no damage. You know, just like you gotta pick and choose your battles and know when it's done.
Yeah, moving in basically 2 tanks here at the top. There's that one Widow Mine. Decent shot. Nowhere near enough.
I was gonna say, yeah, gave them an opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, took the worst fight that they could with the Thors being stuck under tanks that weren't sieged, and but yeah, there's just no shot.
Liberator's gonna pick off every reinforcement it comes down to.
And the tank's gonna siege right in.
Correct in it. He is ignoring the PF over here until everything else is dead. But even then,
That's smart, yeah.
Doesn't do enough.
Thors are just such game enders, where it's like if you don't have something to deal with them, like they just don't die. I guess this Planetary will do well, but yeah, it's just a matter of time at this point.
Yeah, SCV sent to repair under the watchful eye of the Planetary. Liberator putting in some work, but he'll free him for the moment, and then put TYRT's army supply basically, or overall supply still where it was at least at the start of that attack, and BenBot's going to try and keep expanding, but yeah, TYRT should probably go again relatively soon, and he's going to do so with more upgrades this time.
Yeah, and while expanding, you know, as much as possible, basically. So what is that? 6th base is going down right now.
Yeah.
There's going to be another move out with, yeah, like you said, much better upgrades for tier. I mean, and obviously just better unit composition, army supply, worker supply, just about every category. Tier's looking pretty good.
Now the tank's kind of abandoning the bio to just die, which is a little odd, but that's fine.
It is goofy, but it's it's like one of those positions where it's like you could remax 10 times and just throw it away.
It was just kind of funny. As they engaged, they just peeled off to go for this other base. The Neo steel frame bunker up there, but empty. Oh.
Yeah, there's just no shot. But it is funny how like rough the fights are if the units aren't working together correctly. It is brutal. Or yeah, if the tanks aren't supporting the Thors, or like the last one where the Thors were behind the tanks and couldn't like get up the hill. You know, there is some balancing.
Yeah, it looked like one of those when they peeled off. You ever see like one of those medieval movies where like William Wallace's forces commit and then Robert the Bruce's just walk off the field? Or so, like, you know, they just they're like, you know, now send the cavalry, but then they shake their heads and they leave.
They're all getting ready and they just like dip, and it's like, well,
and you're like, no. Yeah, it's one of those.
We're definitely not winning now.
But either way, it still wins.
Yeah, tier takes it. Cute attempt from BenBot. Very different than their usual. Very uncommitted kind of harass early on. That was a very in-your-face build.
This is ultra committed. And I don't necessarily mind the in-the-face. I mind the extreme commitment afterward.
The lack of transition. Yeah. Losing one barracks and, you know, a bunker and a couple Marines is fine, but at this point, why is the mini-map looking like that? Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, was this that final? No, this isn't the final one. I want to see if we get the replay of that peel off of all the tanks.
Right here. Yeah,
this is right after it. They just like.
And even if that one tank stayed, it would take out like 50 of the Marines.
Yeah, they're
but
so
even
committed.
the one that was already.
They're like, we've dug the trenches. We're here. Then they just peel off to the left. Pretty good. So yeah, we'll be jumping onto Oceanborn. BenBot usually does. If the bunker thing didn't work, he abandons it. Let's see if he does this time, because that's a whole new thing that we haven't seen him do before. Top in. No.
If we're ready.
Maybe.
BenBotBC. Tier.
Okay, this one's looking a lot chiller from BenBot.
Yeah, there's no proxies, nothing
Command center
wild,
upgrade complete.
anything like that. So I think we're going to get to see a more normal defensive style.
Yep, pretty quick double gas as well. Good natural coming and Tier going for the bunker. And so kind of the best case scenario of you not harassing and your opponent respecting you possibly harassing is like definitely the golden scenario.
I think we're on like
Yeah, BenBot's
view here.
actual-
Yeah,
yeah.
actual view. Yeah.
'Cause we don't have Tier's
Yeah,
view yet.
There we go. Okay.
So if you press E, it'll be everyone's
Yeah,
view again.
yeah,
I think is E.
sounds right. Yeah.
There's also, dude, there's so many, like, the
Oh, yeah.
observing client is so cool
It's
for
got-
StarCraft, but man, you don't know a letter and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going down the entire Control F or Shift F or Control Alt Shift Z, like,
Yeah.
it's so
For
ridiculous.
sure, it does get intense, and it keeps getting at it. I remember, like, because I've done observing for like a number of tournaments and whatever, and I often like will refresh ahead of time. You kind of Google what the commands are, but then new things have constantly come out
Yeah,
where it's something else, or like people have added this graph or this thing or this whatever on top of it, and it's changed.
no, I have my own Google Doc that I have to like go back to every
Yeah,
time because I'm
yeah.
like, I need to have this on my second monitor. It's too much to go. It's too much going on.
For sure. So yeah, BenBot here with just the bunker out front, which is kind of the standard. The tank will join that. Usually a Widow Miner too will join that and be pretty defensive.
Really quiet early game.
Yeah.
Just neither bot really doing any kind of harass at all. Both have their Stargates coming up, so similar timing with their 111s. But we'll see what they actually kind of want to get into.
Indeed, Tier definitely showed, like in the last game, no inclination to being aggressive or going early. Clearly was building for the late game. BenBot naturally tends to do that, but we saw uncharacteristic play in game one, so I think we're going to get... The key will be, when do we start to see the battle cruisers pumping out?
Yeah. We got the fusion core coming, but we also have burrowing claws, tunneling claws,
Tunneling claws,
the Widow Mine upgrade.
Yeah, tunneling claws. Or, yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, because burrow is just Zerg stuff. I think I'm just adding.
Yeah.
Well, but our tunneling. What's the
Tunneling,
what's the adaptive talent? Lurker's getting into the ground fast.
Yeah.
Isn't that
I
like
forgot.
tunneling or something?
Adaptive talons is definitely a thing.
That yeah, but I don't know if that's
I
the
forgot.
length of it or if that's the speed. Yeah,
Yeah.
upgrade names
I-
are always so goofy.
I think I remember. I always think of the Roach one being named what I always thought the opposite should be, or something.
Oh, like they have tunneling. They might have tunneling claws because they move while they're in.
yeah.
or,
Tunneling claws is the
I
ability
think
to
tunneling
move.
claws is roach.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many
Yeah.
names. But okay, Tier getting into Thors, which will be a very good BC counter. But we'll see how many Widow Mines I guess BenBot makes. I guess usually they just really do that for defense, right? They don't ever really Widow Mine drop, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I've never seen-
a Widow
yeah.
Mine drop.
First BC's on the way, but yeah, BC versus Thor just straight up seems like just a heavy Thor favored match, you know? It's like when you build like carriers and then like they have Tempest and you're like, well, this is like one of the worst. Like if we only have these units, I get obliterated. This is not what you want.
Drilling claws is Widow Mine.
Okay.
Yeah, drilling claws. And then, tunneling claws is Roach.
Okay.
Now, how the Widow Mine got claws, I'm also on. But That's the way it is.
Oh, and then okay, Lurker is adaptive talons. So
Lurker
not
is
claws,
adaptive talons?
talons.
I knew
yeah.
adaptive talons was it, but that's the lurker or the hydra?
That's Lurker,
That's the lurker.
to get into the ground faster.
Okay, and then hydra speed is muscular augments. And
That sounds right, yeah.
And groove spines is attack range. I mean that one. Okay.
Yeah, because then Seismic Spines is Lurkers, and then what is it? Like, what's Overlord speed? Like, isn't it like a P or something?
Ventral sacs? Or is it?
I thought it was like numeric.
Mnemonic sacs?
Something like that, like pneumatic carapace. I thought was it. This is the last one I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pneumatized carapace.
Pneumatized carapace.
I was like, I know it's a P,
carapace.
but I don't know how to pronounce
okay.
it.
Okay.
Okay, first BC's coming. Sorry, upgrade talk is so funny. Oh god, and even the Vikings. Yeah, that's just about the worst first engage you can have. A Thor and like 6 Vikings to greet your BC. But BenBot's gonna keep making BCs. I feel like if this goes, like if BenBot doesn't transition out of BCs and tries to go a different kind of route, I think there's like almost no way that mass BCs does anything to like a couple Thors and a couple Vikings. Like it's just such a brutal matchup.
I knew ventral sacs was the thing. That's the Overlord
Carrying them, right? Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought Sax was with the
Yeah.
I knew it was Carapace, but yeah, I didn't know how to pronounce the actual speed. Pneumatized.
Yeah.
So funky. We're just getting a lot of factory upgrades. Both of them got what's the what do you need to get factory upgrades? Yeah.
Armory?
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Jeez.
Yeah.
Both of them got armory
All of
super
our
early.
upgrades today.
And so yeah, they were both like going into mech, regardless of what the other one did.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it really is just like Tier likes the units that counter BenBot's units that they like, which is just a brutal, it's a brutal show match.
Indeed. And yeah, we'll see how well they do. The Thors can definitely do really good against the battle cruisers, but you know, positioning and kind of getting them away can help. There is a point where battle cruisers become so many that it's still hard to deal with, but yeah, we shall see. Because both of them are just plain building up, so we're just getting a no rush 20 sort of situation.
We're getting a 200-200 supply fight. I feel like if you get a ton of BCs and you are doing, you're timing the Yamada as well. I think that's the only way where you can like, okay, maybe you can whittle away at some Thors. But if you're not Yamatoing and like getting out of there immediately, I think these guys just like one volley everything. You know, like BCs will die so fast to this amount of Thors that like, if you're not just Yamatoing and getting out, I think you're losing. Or if you're not doing like one BC in each mineral line and playing the Muta tactics of just like, I'm going to be where you're not and keep you on your side and just try to be annoying.
Yeah, and then you add the Vikings into this too, which may absorb some of the Yamatos.
Yeah.
Instead of it going to the Thors, because they're generally going to be kind of more front-loaded.
Seen first, and yeah.
Coming in here now.
And kind of having just like the more burst kind of attack. You know, like Thors have the big chonk, and then if you need 2 more volleys from a Viking, they can just kind of finish it off real quick. Yeah, Yamato's barely getting to come off.
It's absolute melt.
Yeah, it's just not the unit comp that you want to fight against at all.
Yeah, and a lot of BenBot's play has always been based on keeping the BCs alive, allowing them to accumulate.
Yeah.
You never, but like, yeah, the guy's so correct, and you just can never get them out of there.
Yeah, kind of similar to Mutas, where like obviously BCs are a lot chonkier, but yeah, one of their main kind of things that people love them for is the maneuverability and being able to get in, get out, get worker kills. If you have a Yamato, pick off a unit. But yeah, the insane range of Thors and then the vision of the Vikings always, it's like you just don't have any time to sneak in and get some damage off.
Yeah, just crushing through bases. BenBot does have a lot of bases, but yeah, you can just see like the Thors are barely, even with like this stuff around slamming at them, it's not taking out.
Yeah.
Very little attrition happening, even with a few tanks, a few Widow Mines just directly attacking the planetaries, even with preparing. Get them low. One may fall, there it goes, but
Yeah,
it's too much.
it feels like Thors are a unit that require a specific counter, where if TVT you're just playing like, I'm gonna assume they're going Marine Marauder, Tank, Viking, which is kind of the like most basic TVT scenario. I feel like just like none of that covers Thors that well. Like tanks are good, but like you almost have to have like a crazy amount of Marauders or like,
Yeah.
I don't even
Gotta
really
be
know what
really
you want to
active.
fight with that. You know, like maybe Cyclone or, you know, like you see some heavy anti-armor like
Yeah.
units. I would think Mass Marauder would be like,
I think that's your go-to if you
Like,
can.
yeah, like
Uh,
would be the best, but
Yeah. And the other thing too is you want to get if you're going to do something with a more mobile, like a Cyclone or something, then you need to be catching them away from here.
yeah,
You need
yeah.
to be getting them across the map so you can harass them, because they're, you know, they're slow, they're bulky, they're whatever.
And that could also be if BenBot was doing more of their teleport in and then run away rather than run and teleport
Yeah.
out, which I feel like anytime they did it, they just ran into the Thors before they actually got any, you know, harassment done. But if you can play that kind of whack-a-mole BC play with maybe a roaming force of like 10 Cyclones that can take out bases if the Thors aren't there, then you can play the maneuverability game rather than the better death ball game. But Thors are just such a death ball unit that you have to really take them out specifically or play against death ball armies, which is playing maneuver armies and, you know, better econ or, you know, you gotta have a different strategy than just fight it head on.
BenBot has so much bank here, it's just getting annoying on rebuilding. They're going to have to find this one because it's not rebuilt.
And the
Or
SCV's
not-
gotta go
not-
find
not
another place.
revealed. Yeah, he's making another one too. So we're just playing whack-a-mole here to end, and we'll eventually get there. At least he sees that other CC, and we're starting to run out. And the SCV
Oh, yeah, build an worker.
get to a location. He does just barely.
But like, it's almost like this kind of
Yeah.
gameplay that like,
Yeah.
when you have an army, when you have units, and you are making them run around, Thors do not want to be running around.
No. Yeah.
It's like when you get full maxed out on carriers and you're like, this is sick, but they won't fight me. And I can't chase them. And I hate this because they're in all of my bases. And it's not a... And if you start separating them, like, two Thors all of a sudden kind of suck. You know, like, you can start Yamatoing them again and jumping on them, so... You really got to play around the Death Ball army, which is kind of what BenBot wants to get into himself-ish. Like, BCs aren't as Death Ball-y as Thors, but they are, once you get enough of them, you should be fine. But that's only if the opponent is not making solely Thors that will
Very
eat
true.
BCs.
Yes.
Well, good games, good games, good games, good games. Man, we're bringing back the Thors. That means tier. I wonder if we'll get a chance to see tier Ketroc. Somehow, I have a feeling those Thors will be quite brutal. We see a tier Ketroc matchup at some point. So
Maybe some cool interference matrix, though. Because I feel like that if you get into
Ooh.
numbers, the Raven should outnumber Thors like crazy. Getting on the Thors is another, you know, getting close
Well,
enough sucks.
We've seen that. We've seen Ketroc versus Tyr, where we ended up with Mass Raven against Thors, and they were both terrified of each other.
Oh, I kind of
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's
Like,
what I
like
mean.
one auto turn, they'd both be like, "I'm not touching
exactly.
that."
That's what I
On the
mean.
other side.
That's what I mean. For I wonder if we're gonna see that kind of
Yeah.
situation again. But I will have to say, I didn't get a chance to comment on it before, but T-Bone and DominionDog, whew, those boys.
Yeah, that was. It's just one of those things where it's like, if you get past this minute, I know the other person win. You know, like it's like the stats and like, you know, if you made a bet, like it's like this guy's gonna win, and now it's like, you know, like if it doesn't happen, it's not happening.
And what's also phenomenal is too is like T-Bone is new. He's newer than DominionDog, and DominionDog is an old veteran. You can't sleep on DominionDog, but still, T-Bone, you know, snatching out that W. So it's a good turnover. Or it's good to see old versus new, bone versus the dog.
Yeah, I also think it's slightly more
Rivalry.
impressive getting a offensive victory rather than a defensive victory.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy for the other bot to trickle Marines in
Especially
for
as
10
Terrans.
minutes or like you turtle up and they screw themselves over and then you win. It's cool, you know, like that's you go on, but to be a new bot and to be like, I'm gonna hit a 2 base timing pretty much every time, and that 2 base timing to work enough to go on, I feel like is a lot more exciting and
Well, I agree.
gives a lot more like potential, hope, faith that it's gonna keep going well.
I mean, it's very common, I think, in bots to default to the defensive. Like you will have like the rope-a-dope level of bots that will just let you crash upon them. Like Ketroc is a good example of a bot that will let you exhaust yourself on him before he comes out to you. So
Yeah.
and BenBot sometimes can be, depending on what strategy he plays, can also be like that. So good to see T-Bone putting in that aggressive style, which I hope others will follow. So
Very much.
all right. So we've come to the end of our night. Hopefully everyone here had a fantastic evening of watching our bots. But let's talk a little bit of predictions, because next week we are in the lower brackets. We don't have an example. I don't know if we have. Well, we can actually see let's look at our brackets tonight.
Yeah.
And then we'll actually be able to kind of at least get the
Extrapolate.
half. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can get the extrapolation of half.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is tonight's. We obviously had Zozo taking 2, Caninana taking 2, Tier and T-Bone winning it. This knocks down, is it Tartarus against Ketroc? Oh my. That'll be interesting. Tartarus versus Ketroc. Feelings on that, boys?
I mean, I'd imagine Ketroc would take what we saw at Tartarus, at least tonight, was that Muta Rush. That would.
Oh, I hated that meter rush.
Yeah, that's not gonna.
no offense to Tartarus. The idea is great and stuff.
No, that's
Yeah.
the point. You give your heart out.
Yeah. That's not. Ketroc's not gonna have any problem with that. So
I'm hoping to see the Ling Rush.
Yeah.
Because apparently
Yeah.
Tartarus has Ling Rushes too. I think that's going to be way better. The Muta Rush should go back in the lab for a little bit.
So yeah, and keep in mind next week is an elimination, so somebody's going home into the scrap. Well, actually, not going home. They're going to the scrap pile, so
Yeah.
we will not return back to the lab. You will be crushed. And then DominionDog versus BenBotBC.
Yeah, that should be a pretty good one. I want to see if BenBot continues with this, like, the much more aggressive proxy. I don't know about that. But I think that'll be a more fair match. That one's harder to predict. But based on what I saw, at least out of the second game here, I'd still be on BenBot's side. But I didn't like that much more committed, cheese almost opening.
I feel like it might be one of those where the timing really comes into play, where I feel like really early on it might be a little bit hard for DominionDog if, Tier or BenBot has like a nice bunker setup or some start.
Yeah.
But I feel like until BenBot gets like really comfy with the BCs, the way DominionDog was getting into that like mid game ZVZ and like using kind of different like spellcasters or different units and tagging units and because against the mutas, eventually they were getting into corruptors. Even though their initial thing was like get some spores, get some queens, and do damage with roaches, I can probably end it. Eventually it was like, all right, we should get into corruptors as well. And so like that adaptability and stuff I think could do really well against BenBot. Because like getting enough corruptors or like being able to tag the BCs and just be very aware of like what you're playing against and being adaptable, I think could be huge. But I think also if it goes long and BenBot has the 10 BCs, it could get really ugly to try to defend that. and there's not as an easy answer as Thor's. I feel like, you know, you can kind of go Corruptors, you can kind of go Neural Parasite. You know, there's some ways to try, but like Thor's is such a kind of checkmate unit. I feel like against BCs.
Yeah.
I don't think Zerg really has one of those, at least to the extent. And so yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see the late game. But I think mid game, I could see DominionDog getting some damage done.
And then to bring up, since you weren't here, but the other half of that losers bracket will be Deimos, which is Baby Eris, Baby Eris's spawnling, and Sharpened versus Sharpened Edge. And then we'll have Terrain, or Terran in the Rain, versus 12 Poolbot. Those are the other two matches that will be played out next week. Well, you haven't really got a chance to see Deimos or Terrain, but we'll put it out there anyways. Endersword, feelings.
My feeling, yeah, Deimos, I don't totally know yet. Like Sharpened Edge, we know kind of the level that he's at, that he's kind of always been at. There's just like kind of a bar there. But Deimos, I don't know. It's not, you know, it's not an Eris yet or anything like that, but I kind of probably would predict that just because it's under more active development.
It's like Eris
so
Light.
Yeah.
It's like Eris Light.
It's not at that level yet, so I don't know, but that's probably where I'd lean things. And then on the other one, again, I don't know enough about Terrain yet, but 12 Poolbot's pretty one-dimensional, so it's more of a yeah. Can you hold like a pretty basic rush? And I think Terrain could, based on what we saw. It's robust enough.
Terran, I feel like also is a usually easier one to hold Ling rushes than any other race. Being able to like repair and have one Marine, and then kind of be safe if you have, you know, like the wall up, and I feel like that's Terran into a cheesy Zerg feels very good. Just build order, you know, RPS wise.
I mean, I feel like you could really mess with people's head if you call it Terrain and then made it like a Zerg bot.
That's fine. You could give it like a Protoss PFP, and yeah.
I want to say I'm excited to see Deimos as a Protoss bot. I feel that Protoss bots have been lacking. I'm a little sad that it's Sharpened Edge versus Deimos, because I think the lack of can't be killing each other. Protoss and Protoss crimes are
PvP.
not acceptable.
Tragic.
Yeah, we just gotta stop killing each other. So that's all my feelings. Yeah, so we're at the end of the night. Next week, we're into losers bracket. Someone's eliminated, and after that, there'll be updates for bots. So bots will get a chance to update. But until then, if you are here and you just stumbled in, maybe you found, just stumbled into our channel, and maybe you saw on Reddit or whatever have you, hit that subscribe button so you can get notified. Better yet, once I put up the actual match, you can actually notify me, and it'll let you know when we go live. So many ways to keep on track on what we're doing. And as well, shout outs to AIarena.net, where if you want to see some more of these bots, or better yet, if you want to put your own bot to play, that's where you put it. So AIarena.net, and then go visit us at versusai.net, all these .nets, where you can build your own bot. Got a little guide there for you. So absolutely. As well as you can join up for a membership and join me on Monday nights to build bots. So I think actually this Monday might be the last of this bot, because we put up on the ladder and it did actually pretty good. Actually, I'm a little surprised. I say it hesitantly because it actually did better than I expected. There's probably some tweaks, but we took off a match off of the number one bot on the ladder, on the micro ladder, and I don't know, that pretty not bad. So we're gonna probably do a few more weeks of that, and then we'll start a new bot on that. So you can just go !join, and you can join us on our mob programming to do our weekly stuff. Tomorrow is actually the last time I'll be closing up the membership pricing, because I might be doing a revamp of it. So if you want to get it at what it is now, jump in now. And that's it. I think I hit all the plugging markers. Keep this train chugging. Throw that coal in there. All right. Any other thoughts, boys, before we round off the night?
Bots are cool.
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, with that then. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, mostly just bots are cool. Yeah, I had a very fun time being back. I always,
I'm excited that you're back. I'm glad you're back.
I was like watching some and seeing some weird stuff, and I feel like there are a lot of interesting strategies that I think some need a lot of readjusting, but I like that there are still so many different ways that people are trying to attack the problem of how do you win in bot games. So yeah, that's really fun.
I mean, that's the core problem, and I think if I was to sum down bot making down to like just a single sentence, like solving interesting problems, because like that's what coding bots is all about. Really, is just you can try to figure out what a palindrome is through code, or you can try to figure out how to get a bot to kick another bot's butt. I think that's a much more exciting problem to solve than palindromes, but whatever. That's just me.
The palindrome community in tears right
Just
now.
in shambles. That I'm gonna rewatch that episode.
Get
of The
ready to be
Simpsons
canceled,
tonight.
brother.
Yeah. Come at me, bro. Come at me with your palindromes, bro.
Rise to vote, sir.
All right, with that, we'll close it up tonight. Everyone, we'll see you next week, Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And also, because we're daylight savings time, make sure you adjust yourself for if you're European or in a place that is sensible and doesn't have daylight savings time. 7:30 p.m. Right? 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you next week. Bye. Happy coding.
Bye.